And we are live.
Hello and welcome to kind of an impromptu NFL corner, I would say, as we are celebrating the beginning of free agency here at the Sports Corner. And this is Free Agency Frenzy with me and Will. Pete, how are you, Will?
I'm doing great, mate. I'm happy that free agency is finally here, but I can't believe it's a year to the day since we did it in the studio. That's already 1 year ago. And it's not really nice to think about because obviously Corona wasn't about it.
Yeah, it's weird because it was 1 year ago to the day. And also so much has changed. We're now in our rooms rather than in the studio. We'd love to be in the studio, but just safety reasons, it's not really permitted at the moment. But what are you expecting from this year's free agency in comparison to last year's? Because last year, obviously, we had the breaking news that DeAndre Hopkins was going to get traded, which sent us all for a loop. Are you expecting something of that magnitude today, or is that one of the one-off type things?
I mean, I think we were pretty lucky to get a big moment like that as we were streaming as well. It was kind of a big bombshell, probably one of arguably the biggest move in the off season last year. But I think with it being the situation that we're in, with the cap shrinking, I'm expecting to see a lot of veterans sign maybe 1 year deals, prove it deals, so they can re-hit the market next season and cash in. But I've noticed, I know what you think as well, Kieran, due to the cap shrinking, there's been a lot of cap casualties. So there's a lot of really good players in the market this year that I think could be available on the cheap. I mean, I think an NFL GM did call it that we're going to see a lot of talent shifting about the league this season, just with the way the current climate is, and he definitely wasn't wrong because there's some big players. But yeah, I'm just excited because free agency it's not quite the draft, but it is still a very exciting time on the NFL calendar.
Yeah, the thing is, I agree with you. It's a lot of veterans as well. We're seeing a lot of experienced names get released. We're also seeing a crap ton of restructures for deals which have been happening over the last 2 years. But as you see in the breaking news section there, after we get our first news of the day, Marcus Golden is staying in Arizona.
Yeah, he's agreed terms on a 2-year deal that pays him $9 million. So he was on the Giants this past season, the season before that, and he got about 10 sacks. I don't know if he returned to the Giants. I think he actually returned to the Cardinals, obviously, as Adam Schefter said. So he returns on a 2-year deal and gets a $9 million contract. So already the first deal of the day is in.
Yeah, but I was going to say before that was the actual breaking news. Before that, as you can see below, the breaking news is that Drew Brees has announced his retirement from football. I've seen, some compilations of all the times where he's been a little bit unfortunate in the playoffs. It's fair to say, but it's all fun in the end. You've got to be fair. He's one of the absolute legends of the game. What's it going to be like for the Saints without him because they're paying Taysom Hill a handsome fee?
They are, and I was very, very shocked to see that. Now I believe all the years avoidable, but at the end of the day, they're still giving $35 million a year, which is a lot. But yeah, I'm interested to see how the Saints do in the post-Drew Brees era. I think we've been waiting for it for quite a while now. Maybe the past few years been like, when is Brees going to retire? How are the Saints going to bounce back? But to be honest, Kieran, I think your boy Jameis is going to get a chance to prove himself. I think he's going to get a start with the Saints. I've been seeing rumours that they're close to agreeing a 1-year deal. So big boy Jameis could be getting his chance to start again in the NFL, which I can't wait and see.
Well, we saw all last year that Sean Payton was a big fan of Jameis Winston. I mean, who isn't a big fan of Jameis Winston? But he was saying that, he'd come on and that when he did play for the Saints last year, sparingly, he was, extremely accurate and looked like there he is. Look at him on the screen sneaking in.
There he is, eating the dubs.
I do think he might be the starter next year. And I'm actually looking forward to Jameis Winston being the starter because with the Saints in the cap hit they've got, it'll be interesting to see because I don't know how many moves they'll be able to make during the off season. But what I will say, speaking on quarterbacks, Cam Newton back in New England.
I know. I saw the news break last week, and I didn't know how to feel about it. Obviously, last season put on a 1-year, $1 million deal. This year it's riding to about $14 million, but I thought it was all right for them. They missed the playoffs. Obviously, had an average season, but I thought Bill Belichick would have had something else up his sleeve. Is Cam Newton? Is he going to be a filler? Do you think they'll pick up a QB in the draft? But what do you think of it? Like, do you think it was the right decision to bring him back? Because I don't think there's a lot of QBs available in this year's market. But
this is the thing, and I don't think they're in a good enough place in the draft to get the one they want in the future. They'd have had to bank on a Trey Lance fall into them, or maybe a Mac Jones. But do you want Mac Jones to be your out-and-out number one for the future? I don't know.
Yeah.
Because I know a lot of league personnel are high on him because he's a leader and at the quarterback position, that's what you need. But I think Jared Stidham, I don't think is the answer, especially not yet anyway from what we've seen, because he was rumored to be the starter until they got Cam Newton. It'll be his second year in the offense. I think you've got to give the guy some weapons for one, because Jacoby Myers, etc., Demir Bird, they're just, they're not at elite weapons, and Edelman has been constantly injured recently. So I think if you New England, I was a bit surprised originally, but when you look at the other options available, it kind of makes sense because there's no one else that can come in and do the job.
Yeah, exactly. There's just a lack of QBs, I think, like you said, on the free agent market. And do you want a rookie coming straight in? I mean, I know the Patriots, look at them now, they probably are more likely a rebuilding team. But at the end of the day, if he gets on with Bill Belichick, and Bill Belichick obviously likes him to bring him back, it's very rare you see Belichick. He only brings back a player if he knows that he's a perfect player for the Patriots. But there's some more news here. I don't know how reliable this source is, but according to Ian Rappaport, Bud Dupree's market is especially strong, which is interesting because obviously he did tear his ACL in December in the Ravens game. Again, it's not a verified source, that, but Bud Dupree, got franchise tag last season after coming off an 11-sack year, I believe, with the Steelers, and he's got a good partnership with TJ Watt, the other linebacker at the Steelers. Where do you think he'll end up, and do you think he'll settle for a 1-year contract, or do you think with him getting tagged last year, do you think he'll be looking to get something long term? But with that ACL, do you think anyone will be willing to offer him long term?
Yeah, and especially with the cap number as well. I think for me, I can see Bud Dupree going on a kind of 1-year prove-it deal to stay healthy, because the problem is before the injury, he'd had 3 seasons straight where he barely missed. I don't think he missed 1 game in 3 years. So it's not exactly an injury-plagued history, but it was a big injury with the ACL, and it's one of them where if you do it again, then you're at the point where your career could very well be over because you aren't going to be, you can't trust the guy to stay healthy. But for me, I don't think Bud Dupree. I think Pittsburgh in general is a team where we'll see a lot of people heading the opposite way, which is exactly what a report came out earlier today that Juju Smith-Schuster has informed his teammates that he'll be going to a different team.
Yeah, and it's one of them. It's the Steelers. They had a phenomenal regular season. Well, they started off very well. They teetered off towards the end, and then they got smashed out of the playoffs in the first round against the Browns. And what started off as such a good season, it ended with a whimper. And obviously, you saw Marquise Pouncey crying on the sideline, Big Ben Roethlisberger, because those two, as their Steelers careers, could be coming to an end pretty soon. It was just kind of like the Steelers had such a good start. They had so many promising players, and it all fell apart. Whether that was TikTok or not, I'm not too sure. But
well, it actually fell in line with Bud Dupree's injury.
Wow, big news. But sorry to interrupt, Kieran. According to Josina Anderson, she got a text from Bucs linebacker Shaq Barrett just now. I'm going back to Tampa, done decision. So it looks like, arguably the biggest name on the free agent market, Shaq Barrett will be re-signing with his team, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, where he won the Super Bowl last year. Got 19.5 sacks a few seasons ago.
So at this point, it looks like he'll be going back. And by the way, if you are new to this channel, please do like and subscribe us first. But we will also be updating on the website, thesports-corner.com, with all these deals as they happen. But I won't do anything just yet because we don't know. A text can say a lot of things. Yeah,
exactly. I mean, if it's true, and the Bucs have got Shaq Barrett back, that means they'll have got a host of talent back from the team that's won the Super Bowl. Obviously, they re-signed Levante David, they tagged Chris Godwin. And now if they get Shaq Barrett back, they're coming back strong. Tom Brady signed that additional extension with some voidable years. So if you're a Bucs fan, it's looking very good so far, your free agents, because you've re-signed most of your big players.
And do you think that's got something to do with the Tom Brady effect? Because people want to play with Tom Brady. And that, to be honest, the guy took a very team-friendly deal to free up cap space to bring back the likes of Chris Godwin on a franchise tag, Shaq Barrett, of course, getting a new deal, because he was one of these where he's got a big market during this free agency, and I would have been surprised if he's not had some offers along the way. But as someone said there, if he did receive offers, it was only 8 minutes worth, and it clearly wasn't enough.
Exactly. I think, like you said, it's the Tom Brady effect, and the fact that most of the players on the team are willing to, take pay cuts. I'm interested to see how much he got, Shaq Barrett. I'm interested to see how much he agreed to, because I think the tag was worth about 19, 18 million for his position. So, I mean, with the ways, with how effective he's been at pass rush, I think he'll get a top of the market deal. But again, Tom Brady was willing to take a pay cut. Mike Evans was also willing to shed some of his salary away to keep some of the players back. So it just shows how tight this Bucks team is, and with getting most of their talent back, you assume they're going to be here next season, competing for the Super Bowl once again.
It's absolutely insane that they've entered this free agency with, I think they had 25 people that were up for, and most of them were important members of their roster, but the core of it is staying together as Lavonte David, Shaq Barrett, and
Godwin.
Of course, Godwin as well. But when you look at the 25 free agents they had, it looked, to be fair, like the Bucks were going to have a completely new roster next year.
It really did. It really did. And it's so hard for a team winning the Super Bowl, because obviously some players, they win a Super Bowl and they think, right, I've got my ring. It's time to get paid now by a big side. But it looks like that's not the case for some of these players. And as you can see on the screen as well, since 2019, Barrett has the most pressures by any defensive end, and he's second in sacks with 27.5. So, he's the past 2 seasons for Barrett, since he signed with the Bucks from the Broncos, I believe, has been very, very fruitful for him, and it looks like he's returning back there now, which is good news for the Buccaneers. Yeah,
and it's an impressive linebacker core, I think, with him and Lavonte. Lavonte David has electric speed, and he's
go on. No, I was going to say even Devin White as well. He was a defensive player of the year candidate.
Yeah, exactly. And if you go back even further, Sean Murphy-Bunting and Antoine Winfield Jr., 2 people that were absolute studs for their first year in the NFL.
Absolutely. And some more breaking news. Another deal's come for already, Kieran, and it's another re-signing, I believe. The Lions have re-signed pass rusher Romeo Okwara on a 3-year, $39 million contract. So he had 10 sacks this past season. So he clearly wanted to get paid, and he performed pretty well. So Okwara, I believe, his brother Julian Okwara also plays for the Lions, so that could have been a bit of a factor. But he re-signs on a 3-year, $39 million contract. But yeah, I'll just go and update the. As you can see, Mike Garafolo's put he was undrafted, he was waived, and now he's paid. So congrats to Romeo Okwara there getting his new contract with the Detroit Lions. I'll just go and update the ticket here.
The Detroit Lions are one of them at the moment, Will. That's an interesting team because they've obviously got Jared Goff now, who's come back for this year. And what do you think about kind of their chances? Obviously, they've got Romeo Okwara back, but one player they have let go, or it looks to be let go, is Chris Godwin. Not Chris Godwin, Kenny Golladay.
Yeah. What do I think of it? I know my mate Louis was a Lions fan. I texted him about it and I said, were you aware that Kenny Golladay wasn't tagged? And he was very, very frustrated. And I think it's the same with all Lions fans. They're not going to be happy that Kenny Golladay, wasn't at least tagged, because he's without doubt their best wide receiver. And once a player hits the open market, they can get paid whatever they want. I can't see him back being a Lion, unfortunately. Unfortunately for Lions fans, I can't see him returning. I think it's a big deal for maybe the Jets, maybe. But if he wants to stay home, that's fair play to him. But I think he'll be going to a new team, unfortunately.
Yeah, and you know what? We've got some Vikings news, because I'm going to get in on the Vikings news, Will.
Yeah,
there's some restricted free agents. Mike Boone isn't likely to get tendered, and Minnesota want to keep Chad Beebe in the fold, but they don't plan to tender him either. So that's 2 people that are kind of restricted free agents that won't be getting either a first-round tender, a second-round tender, or the right of first refusal.
So, if I could ask you, Kieran, as a Vikings fan,
yes,
which one? Name you one desired free agent, a realistic free agent. I know I've got a feeling it could already be. We mentioned it a bit earlier before stream, but is there a player, a free agent more specifically, that you would like the Vikings to target and go in and sign?
I mean, I'm a big fan of Joe Tooney. I think I mentioned that shows up one of the guard positions, which is really important on the offensive line. I look a little bit further, maybe to some of the cornerbacks. I like Patrick Peterson and Richard Sherman. Even though I just an experienced cornerback would be one of mine, and also a name I saw mentioned the other day to line up at defensive tackle next to Michael Pierce is Ogunjobi, which could be an interesting one to line up alongside Michael Pace.
Yeah, Ogunjobi, but is he the Browns player? I believe. I think he was linked with the Cowboys. Ogunjobi. I mean, we've been linked with a lot of interior defensive linemen. I know one player that many Cowboys fans have been saying they would really like is Dalvin Tomlinson, the man from the Giants. I've seen a lot of Cowboys fans say that they would like to get him in. Jordan Brent's put in the comments, by the way, I believe, Kieran.
He has put Eddie Hearn says the contract is signed between Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua. You're a bigger boxing fan than I am. What do you think about that fight?
I mean, we've been waiting for it for some time. It's just that if it happens, we've seen boxing in the past sign these deals with other promoters, and it's never happened. But hopefully, this one can come around. And hopefully, it happens after COVID. You know, I'd prefer if we could have fans in the stadium for that fight. But yeah, they're arguably the two best heavyweights in the world right now. Obviously, Joshua just going off that win against Andy Ruiz, obviously last year. Obviously, Tyson Fury beating Deontay Wilder twice now. So it is the heavyweight fight everyone wants to see. And I can't wait to see. And I think I'll be supporting Tyson Fury personally because I can't say I'm a massive fan of Anthony Joshua.
No, I'm the complete same. I love a little bit of Tyson Fury as well. I think he's the one with the more personality. And I don't mean that in a harsh way either.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. But there's another update here. According to league source on Cowboys, interested in bringing back Andy Dalton. The QB obviously played. I think he played about 11 games. Obviously, Dak Prescott got injured in the Giants game. He came in return. We ended up finishing 6-10. He was all right, but apparently, if the dollars work out, he could be returning to the Cowboys. But as you can see, it looks like he's entertaining other offers. So I think he'll still want to be a starter. Do you think anyone would use Andy Dalton to be a starting QB?
Well, it depends. If one of the teams is going to bring in, that needs a quarterback, but they're going to bring in a rookie who they want to just sit for a year, then I definitely think that Andy Dalton has his place in the league as a tutor to the likes of, maybe Trey Lance, because he spent last year out of football. He spent last year off because of COVID, and he plays in a smaller set of schools. So maybe just for a year, Andy Dalton, full-time starter, is there, and he gets the starting job down the road as the Red Rocket takes over for now.
No, I agree. I think he's one of them players that could be perfect as a bridge QB. But some big breaking news: Shaq Barrett is returned to the Buccaneers, and the money is a 4-year deal worth $72 million, which includes $36 million fully guaranteed. So he's official now. Shaq Barrett returns to the Buccaneers on a 4-year deal worth up to $72 million.
Yeah, and that piece is up on the website. We didn't have the money at the time, but I will add the money at a later date to that deal. But the piece is already on the website if you want to get to that. But and Romeo Okwara puts big bad Andy Dalton. So there you go. And obviously, you don't need Andy Dalton because your backup can then be Gucci Bendanucci.
Exactly. And you know what? Gucci Bendanucci is only starting the NFL. He had backups at O-line. He had like Terrence Steele in a living at right tackle. He had Brandon Knight at left tackle, and he still outplayed Carson Wentz. So fair play to him. He was phenomenal when he got the chance.
Of course, Carson Wentz now with the Colts. Some big moves, especially between quarterbacks, has already happened before today. One person that we hope will be in talks over this offseason is Deshaun Watson. The Texans have been making some moves over the last recent couple of days.
They have. I thought the deal to get Shaq Lawson, was it, from the Dolphins? I thought that was a good deal. Yeah. He was pretty good for the Dolphins last year for that defense. But yeah, the Texans. I wonder what's going to happen with Deshaun Watson. He's the big fish really for the Texans, but I just don't know if he's going to end up getting dealt. I just don't know because there's obviously teams are going to be interested. But if the Texans refuse to move him at all, then he won't go anyway. It's the team's decision at the end of the day, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. But I will tell you, a report from Chad Graff about Minnesota is that they are looking to go after 2 free agents, Joe Thuney and Shaquille Griffin.
So a corner and a guard. Who would you prefer that to?
I think. Well, it's actually perfect for what I said. I wanted a guard and a corner, possibly defensive tackle. But I think if we could get them both, that's a dream thing. But I think we prioritise getting Joe Thuney first, so we can show Dakota Dozier the door. I
mean, personally, I disagree that Dakota should be shown the door. If you've got you've got Dakota and you've got Tooney, you've got a really good guard in Tooney. You've got an All-Pro in Dakota Dozier on the other side. You would have two phenomenal guards.
You wait there. I'm getting the stats up. You wait there.
I want to see how many sacks he allowed. Bless him. But the Bucs to sign Shaq Barrett is $18 million. I was working out. It's $18 million per season, which that's a bit of a bargain if you ask me. I think a Cowboys fan, Tom Downey, also put the same. Yeah, he's put that's a steal, and it is really because he was phenomenal in the Super Bowl. He had a great connection with Jason Pierre-Paul from the other side. So well done to the Bucs for re-signing him.
And I will tell you that for every Dakota Dozier fan out there, tied second in the league with penalties, tied second in the league with sacks allowed, and he played a PFF of 44.6. That's Dakota Dozier's numbers for 2020. There you go. There you go, Will.
He's trying. That's all that matters. At least he's healthy. At least he's playing every game.
Yeah, well, he did have a lot of snaps, and that was the big problem about his season. That was that he played a lot of snaps. But we looked earlier, didn't we, Will? And the big free agents that are looking to be on the move, and there's a list of about 20. Did you say?
Yeah, well, there's the top 101 free agents, but we're obviously not going to talk for the top 101 because even though do you think Dakota would be on that list? Do you think he'd be a top 101 free agent?
No. I don't even think people have even begin to notice that he's missing. But I will say, the Bears are restructuring Cody Whitehair, the centre.
Right, so that'll free up a bit of cap room then.
Yeah. For
the Bears, and as Kieran said, the piece is now up on the website about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers re-signing Shaq Barrett. So go check that out. It is thesport-corner.com. We post a lot of stuff on that website. Daily articles on loads of different sports. But as Kieran said, we'll have a look at the top free agents in this season's free agent market. And the first one is Trent Williams. He was acquired, I believe, in the draft from the Redskins, where he medically wanted out. 49ers acquired him. 49ers had a dodgy season. He had a lot of injuries. But where do you think the perfect fit for Trent Williams is? Age 33. Is it time for him to go to a team that could compete for a Super Bowl?
I mean, I like him in San Francisco because I do think San Francisco is Super Bowl ready.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, Will, I think that overall, that Trent Williams, I like his fit in San Francisco. He's an elite left tackle, and you need them. You want your quarterback's blindside protector to be kind of the position that you don't need to touch for 10, 15 years once you draft him. And Washington had him, but as you said, at the age of 33, tackles can go on a little bit longer, but it's one of them. I think he will get paid, and he deserves to because he's a really good left tackle. I just don't know how long his deal will be. I can imagine that if it is to San Francisco, they'll want to tie him down for the next couple of years and not have him reaching free agency anytime soon.
Yeah, that's the thing, innit? It could be with the agent. It could be his final payday. We just don't know that. But I agree. I think the 49ers is a great fit for him. I've seen the Colts being rumoured now. It feels like the Colts get linked to every free agent because they've just got a load of money. They've always got, they always have a lot of spare change, so people instantly link into the Colts because I know Anthony Castonzo did retire this last offseason, so it'd be an instant replacement on that offensive line. But yeah, I agree. I think the 49ers is the perfect fit for him, really. He's already played a season now. He's used to the team, and I think once they get all the team back healthy, they'll be contenders once again. No need to talk about it. He's already re-signed with the Buccaneers, so.
Where's the best fit for Shaq Barrett? Probably Tampa.
Yeah, unfortunately, we don't like to pay free agents big, so we were never ever going to sign him anyway.
No, I think Rowan was asking me yesterday, like, what do you expect the Vikings to do? I'm like, usually we're just quite boring. Like last year, our biggest free agent signing was Tajay Sharp. He's not even on the team anymore.
I think ours was Joel McCoy, who looks pretty good. We signed him on a 3-year deal. He tore his quad, and the Cowboys released him. And all the other free agents we signed were pretty woeful. Aldon Smith was all right for the first half of the season. But again, you want to see your team. You don't want to see your team splash loads of cash because that doesn't work all the time. But it'd be nice to bring in some few additions here and there. But again, I've kind of just got used to it now. The Cowboys are not very active in the first few days of free agency. But the next player is the player we've already talked about pretty much, Bud Dupree. Do you still think he'll get that 1-year deal somewhere, or do you think someone will pay him? Because he's only 28 years old, and an elite pass rusher. Some of them can play in the late 30s. I can't see him return to the Steelers, but where do you think he'll end up?
No, you're right. I can't see him going to the Steelers. I'll be honest with you. I'm not sure where he ends up though, because I'm not sure who's willing. There's a few teams with a lot of cap space, and the teams that if I just actually I'll get up over the cap, just to see which teams are being live. But I don't think he's due a massive deal this year. I may be wrong, but I just don't think coming off the ACL tear, he'll be paid as much.
No, I agree. I think with teams not having the money to pay the players, I don't think it's someone I'd pay in long term. But I just don't think. I think he needs to fit a certain scheme as well. I know he's listed as a linebacker. He played a lot of inside linebacker in his early years. He's kind of become more of an outside edge linebacker that likes the blitz. I mean, he got 8 sacks last season, and he only played about 11 games. So he can get consistent pressure, but at the end of the day, coming off a torn ACL, is anyone going to pay him big bucks? I think Bud Dupree, and then I think he'll sign a 1-year prove-it deal somewhere, similar to Leonard Floyd last season when he signed with the Rams. He had a pretty good year on a 1-year deal, and now he's hit the market again. Unfortunately, he's hit the market at the wrong time.
Yeah, well, the Dolphins have space at linebacker now. They've got rid of Shaq Lawson, but I don't know I'm not sure I like the fit. But in terms of cap space, the Jaguars are leading at the moment. Patriots have got a lot of cap space, but Bill Belichick, usually they actually don't really spend that much money in free agency. The one time they did was Stephon Gilmore, and it completely paid off. So maybe they'll look to delve into the market again. And you've got the Jets and the Chargers, the Colts, the Bengals, the football team, Dolphins. So there are a few teams up there that it depends if Bud Dupree wants to go to a team that's competing or to get a nice little payday.
Yeah, and sometimes a team that is competing might throw you a 1-year deal, and you might think, let's go compete for a championship. But I think if someone threw him that 3-4 year contract, I think he'd snap their hand off. To be honest, with what is coming off with that ACL injury, I think he's. I don't know what he thinks, obviously, but the payday could be pretty big in his opinion. He might go to the team that's offering the biggest payday. The next player, Trey Hendrickson, not a household name, but he had a very good season for the Saints last year. I think he's kind of gone on the radar a bit, but a player that he had a very good 2 games against the Bucs in the regular season. Obviously, they lost to the Bucs in the playoffs, but he was still very, very influential for that Saints defense. Where do you think he'll end up? I mean, I'm thinking maybe Saints, look to resign him, but if you talk about a team that's low on cap space, the New Orleans Saints are at the top of that list, so maybe he goes and gets a big deal somewhere else. But Trey Hendrickson, what do you think? Still only 26?
Yeah, and he's kind of got better as the years have progressed. Last year was his first year as a full-time starter, and he repaid the faith in Sean Payton by racking up, I think, double figures in sacks. I think immediately when I think of teams who need a pass rush, the Titans immediately come to my head all the time. I think the Seahawks need pass rushers, really, because even Carlos Dunlap was the only one who really was a good pass rusher for the Seahawks.
Packers maybe.
Oh no, definitely not. The only team that's not signed anyone this year to me be the Green Bay Packers. But Packers are in a little bit of cap trouble, but they'll probably be able to work around. I think everyone will be able to.
Yeah, usually see teams eventually manage to work their way around it. Because at the end of the day, cap space is fluid. You can literally you can restructure someone and make loads of cap space. You can even have avoidable years into a contract, and that even frees up cap space. So there's ways to get around it. And if you really want a player on your team, I think you can find a way to do it. The next player is Carl Lawson. Now I know he was a Bengals franchise mode legend for me when I was rebuilding the Bengals. I think he was a 4th, 5th round pick in 2017, I believe. He's obviously played for the Bengals ever since. He's got 20 sacks since he's played for the Bengals, and it's again 26 years old. You'd like to think his best days are ahead of him. Where do you think he's going to? I think returning to the Bengals and with what they're building, I think that would be the best move for Carl Lawson at this point in his career.
Yeah, I'd like the return to the Bengals, to be honest with you. Again, though, in terms of who's looking for a pass rusher, I think we named pretty much most of them in the last one with Trey Hendrickson. But I agree. I think Carl Lawson makes a decent fit on the Bengals, and the Bengals need to kind of, I don't want to say reconfigure their defensive line, but obviously I think Geno Atkins will be out the door eventually in the near future. So they're going to have to figure out some things. But if you can get Carl Lawson, who's only 26 years old, round for another 4 years or something like that, you'll be more than happy.
Completely agree. But the next player, moving away from pass rushers is Kenny Golladay, a player that's, I think it was a second-round pick for the Lions a few years ago. He's got better every year. Had a bit of an injury over the last 2020 season. I think he only played about 3 or 4 games, but the talent is there. He had back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons in 2018 and 2019. The Lions did not franchise tag him. He's still 27 years of age.
No.
I think this guy's a really, really intriguing free agent because we know the talent's there, but the injuries are also there as well. I can see a team very much like the Dolphins could take a splash on Kenny Golladay, get another weapon for Tua Tagovailoa. What about you?
I think you've got to also look at the Patriots. I think they definitely need a weapon like Kenny Golladay, but you're banking on no injuries. I think the Eagles need a wide receiver because at the moment, they've got Jalen Reagor, yes. You've got Quez Watkins, yeah. But I think, if you can get someone like Kenny Golladay, you'll be more than happy. But I will interrupt because former Jets and Viking offensive lineman Pat Elflein has reached a 3-year agreement to sign with Carolina.
Right. So the Carolina Panthers getting help on the offensive line for Teddy Bridgewater. If it is Teddy Bridgewater, the starter, we don't know that yet. But Pat Elflein, I know Pat Elflein, he had a good start to his career with the Vikings, but obviously got released. I believe was he on IR start last season or something like that?
He was. I think he was, and then basically Ezra Cleveland took his spot. He came back and probably asked for his spot back, and they said no. Ezra's been playing well, so then eventually it was just decided that we'd get rid of him to the Jets, and then he's obviously now setting up in Carolina.
Yeah, and the Panthers again, a team that spent all their draft picks last season on defense. Because that defense really needed some help. But now you're getting another offensive lineman to help out. It's not a bad deal as well. 3 years, $30 million. It's not a huge deal. You'd like him to be a starter, but if he isn't, he could be used more as that swing tackle. Again, it's more. You can never go wrong with signing an offensive lineman. Depth on the O-line is something that every team wants, and every team needs because it's such an important position. But yeah, not a bad deal for them, Carolina, as they look to possibly maybe return to the first next season. It's going to be tough, but with them getting Christian McCaffrey back, and we'll see what else the Panthers can do. But I've just seen this here on Twitter. I believe it was Luke Johnson put on, when you wake up to a new day without the spectre of will the greatest player in the franchise history retire today. So yeah, Saints fans are pretty happy that Drew Brees has finally announced his retirement. I mean, it took a while to announce it, didn't he, Kieran? Announce his retirement, Drew Brees.
Yeah, I mean, it looked very much like he was done with the kind of the post playoff kind of looking back on the stadium. I think it makes sense for him to finish his career now, but it did take him a while, right? You are right.
Did indeed. I think I've seen some news on another free agent wide receiver, T.Y. Hilton. He's been playing for the Colts for many years now. He's apparently Justin Anderson has said just got off the phone with Colts wide receiver T.Y. Hilton. And he said that he spoke with Chris Ballard before the draft, which is the Colts GM, before he left town last Tuesday. And he told me he'd like to at least get a chance to match any potential offer on the market. So, T.Y. Hilton, another wide receiver who's had injury issues, but when he plays, he's a very good wide receiver. There were rumours possibly the Packers could be interested in bringing T.Y. Hilton to the team. But yeah, that is that story there. Chris Ballard, the Colts GM, has said that if he gets an offer, he'd want the opportunity to at least match it. He's
an interesting one, a very experienced wide receiver. Had some really good years. They've not been he hasn't had his great years recently, but from the last couple of years, he's been he's a solid wide receiver, I would say.
Yeah, I completely agree. He's got he's one of those players where he can play on the outside, inside. He's got a lot of speed. But what will teams think of that recent injury history? Do they bring him on maybe a short-term deal to get a bit of experience at wide receiver? We'll have to wait until he returns. Some news from Rappaport again here. The Arizona Cardinals officially tendered linebacker and special teamer Zeke Turner as of right of the first refusal free agent. So I think he was probably a restricted free agent, which means they could place the first or second round tender on him. And he's returned to the Cardinals. Not a well-known name. I can't say I've ever heard of Zeke Turner, but I'm sure those Arizona Cardinals fans will probably pay more respect to him since special teamers. Yeah. I don't know if you care now. Is there one player on the Vikings that is that that guy that just turns up on special teams every single week for that? I know for the Cowboys it's actually
No, our special team was awful. Absolutely horrific, the special teams was last year. So absolutely no. I mean, Chad Beebe for that one game where he muffed the punt and then heroically arrived in what's it called? with the game-winning touchdown. So a little bit of maybe BB, but not really. No one shows up. How about yourself?
Yeah, like I said, I think it was most of CJ Godwin because remember last season, he's always that player that as soon as he put the ball to the other team, he's first on the tackle straight away. I think he's like a cornerback, but I barely see him line up as corner. But if you remember, notably, he's the one that recovered the watermelon kick from Greg Zuerlein. He's the one that jumped on that. He had a play against the Steelers where it was like a fake, where a player pretended to catch the ball, threw it across the field to Godwin, and he almost returned it for a touchdown, but he was tackled. So he's one player that whenever our special teams on the field, you look out for CJ Godwin. And he's a free agent this year, in fact, so hopefully he doesn't leave because I would like him back because he's one of those players that he's kind of a cult hero. You know, everybody loves a bit of CJ Godwin. He's one of those players that you just can't hate CJ Godwin with the effort that he brings on special teams.
Yeah, and it's one of them. I know Bill Belichick likes bringing back his special teamers because, to be fair, special teams is a big part of the game. And if you have a bad special teams, it's a massive struggle.
Oh, absolutely! He always says you need all three phases to win a game in the NFL. You need special teams, defense, and offense, but they're always equal with each other. So if your special teams is pretty crap, then they're gonna struggle big time, especially in the NFL where the margin for error is still so short. But we'll get back to the other free agents that we were talking about before we were obviously interested with that live signing of Pat Elflein. Jadeveon Clowney, very, very interesting name this season, once again in free agency. Finished last season with no sacks for the Titans. Struggled with injuries, wasn't really a starter. What do you think the future holds for Clowney? Because he's 20 years old now. He's not yet secured that long-term deal since he's been in the NFL. What do you think will happen with him? I'm very, very interested to see what happens to Jadeveon Clowney.
I worry that his stock might be lower than ever after this season because he had a really bad season. But, I think it's a 1-year deal. And I don't see him returning to Tennessee because it just didn't work out.
I completely agree. I think Tennessee is off the potential suitors for him. But I just don't know who would want to bring him in. I know he's rumoured last season to maybe go to the Giants on a long-term deal. It never actually happened. I mean, I don't know if you remember, Kieran. He was unsigned for many months. Nobody. Yeah, people thought he'd fly off the board at the start of free agency, and he didn't end up signing a deal till close to August, same time around Everson Griffin. But yeah, I don't really know what the best fit for Clowney is. He was all right for the Seahawks. The Seahawks kind of used him all over the field as a linebacker, a defensive end. But yeah, interesting one. I think if he goes anywhere, it'll be another 1-year contract, another 1-year deal. Maybe a team that could be competing might pick him up and just use him as a potential player that think about we could get something out of Jadeveon Clowney, but we'll have to wait and see with Clowney. Again, it's a very hard one to predict for him. Joe Thuney, we've talked about Joe Thuney, the Patriots offensive lineman. He did not get tagged for the second successive years. He's on the market as of right now. There's a lot of teams interested in him. Do you think the Vikings are the front runner, or do you think there's maybe a team like the Jets or the Bengals that look to snap him up?
I wouldn't say we're the front runners because obviously with cap space, obviously they can offer a lot more money. But in terms of the teams you've just mentioned, I think I don't want to be boasting, but I think we're in the best position to win now. I think there's just a few pieces that are missing that need to be kind of ironed out. And one of them is offensive line, which the Vikings have been trying to fix for years. And it just and hopefully they're on the right way with obviously they got rid of Riley Reef recently. Maybe that means Ezra's going back in at left tackle, which means there's 2 guard spots up for grabs. And if you can replace one with Joe Thuney, get yourself Elijah Vera Tucker in the draft. It's a new looking offensive line for the Vikings.
Yeah, 100% agree. And offensive linemen are that one position in the NFL which is just so important. And a player like Joe Thuney, he's proven that he's a very good starting offensive guard, and he's going to be a great signing if whoever gets him. I completely agree with what you've said. Matt Judon is our 9th ranked free agent according to NFL.com. Pass rusher for the Baltimore Ravens, got tagged last offseason after I think he got about 10 sacks, maybe 9.5 sacks, but he's a free agent again this year, 29 years of age. Again, another player that his production was all right. I think he had about 6 sacks this past season for the Ravens as they got to the AFC divisional round. Again, a player that I can't see him getting anything outside of 1-year contracts.
No, and yeah, I completely agree with you. And to be honest with you, I kind of like it. I would like him to go back to Baltimore for maybe 1 more year because he seems to be the one that he seems to be a Ravens player. and it seemed to fit the Ravens' scheme. So it'd be interesting to see him go back to Baltimore if he could.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think it's the best fit for him. It's where we've obviously. It's been his only team in the NFL. I think he was a 5th round pick too, so he's developed really well with the Ravens. I think returning to the Ravens is probably the best fit for him. The 10th ranked free agent is a player from your rivals, the Green Bay Packers, Corey Linsley, an important figure on the offensive line for the Green Bay Packers, protecting Aaron Rodgers and obviously creating the running lanes for Aaron Jones, who re-signed with the Packers yesterday. I mean, I personally see him returning to the Packers, but if the Packers were to lose him, it would be a massive loss for him.
He would. Not for me personally. I'd be happy to see him walk, but he's a really good centre, and he's one of them where I think the Green Bay Packers had a decision to make, maybe between Linsley and Bakhtiari of who they were going to keep around, because they had another team that had quite a hefty amount of free agents that needed to be shifted, and I think the thing is, where does he go to though? What team right now is looking for a centre?
I think it's very few with I mean, he plays centre, but there's you can probably sign him and play him as a guard. But I think the one team that's dying, that's actually crying out for a offensive lineup is obviously the Jets. But I know that they signed obviously. I think it was the guy from the Broncos. His name escapes me. They signed a centre last year from the Broncos. I think the Bengals maybe could be a good fit for Linsley if he decides to leave. Now, I think he'll re-sign with the Packers. Is probably the best fit for him if he wants to compete and get paid handsomely. But yeah, the Bengals could be an option for him. We saw Joe Burrow last season. He showed a lot of promise, but he just was not getting the protection that he deserved. He was getting hit a lot, and obviously that's how he ended up getting injured. But if you got to play like Linsley, centre, could be a leader on that offensive line. I think he'd be a great coup for the Bengals. We've got quite a bit of money to spend as well in free agency. Yeah,
I know what you mean, because the one thing is it's a dangerous injury for Joe Burrow, but his offensive line did not help him at all. I remember seeing him get hit week in, week out. I remember the game against Baltimore where Patrick Queen gave him the absolute hell against Baltimore. So when you're coming up against in a really tough division, which is what the Bengals are in with the Steelers, who were amazing at rushing the passer, they're on a massive sack streak. Sorry, you've got to protect Burrow, or your franchise guy maybe one of them where injuries will plague him.
Yeah, completely agree. And, if you one position you want to keep clean and injury free is your QB, because at the end of the day he's the most important player in your team. And it was very, very sad to see Joe Burrow get injured in his first year. Obviously with the Bengals, he was having a phenomenal rookie season with what he had to work with anyway. So maybe the Bengals can get him some help. He can bounce back in year 2. The 11th ranked player is obviously a former Viking. He traded for him before last season, Yannick Ngakoue, before trading to the Ravens mid-season. So Ngakoue, he's played for three teams in the past year or so. I think he had about 5 sacks with the Vikings, maybe 3 or 4 with the Ravens. Again, he was phenomenal for the Jags. Had 20 sacks in his first 2 seasons. A very, very good pass rusher on his day, and still only 26 years of age. But the rumours last season that he was commanding too much money. Where do you think Yannick could go? Because I personally, I think it could be a good option for the Cowboys if he's willing to take a certain deal. Opposite of DeMarcus Lawrence, I really like that a lot. But yeah, Yannick, he didn't really hit the ground running in Baltimore. Surprisingly traded away from Minnesota. Where do you think he could end up in this race?
Well, I think we traded him away when we looked like we were dead and buried.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, we then revived ourselves, and unfortunately, he wasn't there because our pass rushing was absolutely abysmal last year, and Yannick Ngakoue led the team in sacks, and he left after 6 games.
Yeah.
So, to be honest, you can see the production's there. I just don't think he can command the money that some other elite edge rushers do, because I just don't think the market's there for him right now.
No, I completely agree. And with it being the situation it is, obviously the cap shrinking, now is the worst time if you want a long-term deal. You're just not going to get a long-term deal if you want right now. And I think Yannick is one of those players that the talent that he has, he deserves to get paid big, but unfortunately it shouldn't happen for him yet. But maybe it happens this off-season if someone's bringing him in. But
just to let you know, apparently the Vikings have offered for Shaq Griffin, and I presume Carl Lawson, because he's just put Griffin and Lawson. Not surprisingly, Tooney is getting a ton of calls. and that is obviously from Score North, which is specifically a Vikings one.
Right. So you're interested in both players and bringing them both in?
Well, there's offers for both Shaq Griffin. I think I'll be honest. I think you only pick one of them. If you're gonna choose, but I really hope we can get Joe Tooney in as well, which would be a massive deal.
Yeah, and Shaq Griffin, we'll get him to him shortly as well. On the fridge, but he's one of those corners that I think is also very underrated. Had a good year with the Seahawks last season in what is an underwhelming defense to say the least. But he's one of those cornerbacks that he came in, I believe, as a mid-round pick, and he's done really, really well to become a very good corner in the NFL. And I think he's going to get paid handsomely this offseason because he's still pretty young as well. Will Fuller, wide receiver from the Texans. Obviously, the Texans are arguably the most poorly run franchise at the moment in the NFL. He's also a free agent after a pretty good year with Deshaun Watson. He was rumoured to be traded maybe at the deadline. The Packers were an interested team, but he now hits the market as a free agent. I can't see him going back to the Texans. I probably think the Packers probably one of the best fits for him. Maybe the Redskins, who could do with someone opposite McLaurin. What about you? Where Will Fuller could go?
I feel like Will Fuller's been around. I just feel like he's one of them receivers that's just been around. He's a very good, quick receiver. Weirdly, I like his fit in Miami. I don't know. I just feel like I'd like him to go to Miami. And as you said earlier about they get to give Tua another weapon. And I mean, would you maybe football team to give? You've got Scary Terry, but aside from Scary Terry, who've you really got? So maybe you go somewhere like that. There's a lot of teams looking for some decent wide receivers.
No, I agree, and there's so many good. I think there's so many good wideouts this year on the market as well. It's very rare that you see. I know Amari Cooper obviously hit the market last season, but it's very rare you see it. Wide receivers of this talent hit the market. Obviously, we have Will Fuller. We've just gone past Kenny Golladay. Juju's going to be on this list soon. We're going to come on to Curtis Samuel shortly, but there's a lot of receivers this year what the teams can definitely target. But before we get on to Curtis Samuel, we've got the biggest free agent available. That's Jameis Winston at QB. He's obviously Buccaneers, former first overall pick. Probably going to go back to the Saints to be the heir to Drew Brees. Do you think he can be a success if he resigns with the Saints?
Yes, I will back my boy for the whole time. I will back my boy. But I think it's a 1-year fit for the Saints. I'll be honest with you.
I mean, he was obviously back up last season. He's been learning from Brees and Sean Payton all last season from the bench. But he had 11 pass attempts this past season for 75 yards. He didn't throw a pick, which is it's a step in the right direction for Jameis. But yeah, I think he was playing for a Buccaneers side early on in his career that weren't a very good side. He was throwing a lot of picks. I think he needs a coach that believes in him. And if Sean Payton believes in him, I think he could be a great fit with the Saints. And that's where I think he'll end up anyway.
And to be honest with you, when you're playing for Sean Payton, it's a lot more about ball retention. Like that, it's not going 40 yards downfield with every single ball. It's literally gaining short yardage and just moving the chains downfield. And I think for Jameis, it'll be a complete switch from what he previously knew, but also it might be a nice change for Jameis. Sorry,
I agree, completely agree. And we've got another update here from Christina Aronson, and she's firing the news out today. I know understanding the Jets, the Vikings, the Browns have all shown interest in Saints defensive end Trey Hendrickson. We just talked about him. He had a good season with the Saints, the former third-round draft pick. That list is in no particular order, but as of right now, it looks like those three teams are the front runners to maybe land Trey Hendrickson, defensive end. So another player for the Vikings.
I'd be all for it. The guy's got a lot of upside, and when he's been a starter, he even splashed as a rotational pass rusher for New Orleans when he was there for the first, I think, 3 years or so. He came in and played, a couple snaps, and he was forcing fumbles, and then he eventually became the starter. And he is a very, very good pass rusher when you can get him into a scheme. And if he can be alongside Daniil, more than happy. And Michael Pace in the middle, maybe pick up Christian Barmore in the draft. What a defensive line that'd be. As Chris Welch puts, "Hi lads, I hope you're well. Nice to see you, Chris. I hope you're well as well, mate."
Yeah, good, Chris. Cheers, mate. Thanks for tuning in. But yeah, I agree, Kieran. Like, if you can get Hendrickson in and then maybe target someone else in the draft, and even like you said, Michael Pierce, was a free agent you paid big bucks for last season. Obviously, didn't play because he was quite a susceptible player to the virus, whatever. But you're getting him back. That'll be like, well, it will be like a brand new player. Never not played for the Vikings yet. You put him in the middle of the defensive line, he's instantly going to be a player. And you can get another player opposite Neil. All of a sudden, your defensive line is looking pretty tasty. Another player is Curtis Samuel. Now, a very, very interesting player. More of a Swiss Army knife, I think. He can line up at running back, wide receiver. And it says here that he had over 1,000 yards from scrimmage. I think he's probably the third best receiver on that team behind Robbie Anderson and DJ Moore. But a good player that I think could get some interest in this window. Only 25 years old. Again, another wide receiver on the market. Possibly the Redskins could look at him. I think he could be a target. The Patriots as well. Any other team that's coming to mind for Curtis Samuel, or the similar teams you already mentioned?
No, I think it's the same with all the wideouts. It's a similar one to what we already know. But I will say, to be fair to Curtis Samuel, the Panthers are in a lucky enough position where they can let him go because they have got 2 elite wide receivers. It's nice to have 3, but as you said, that guy's so versatile. You can kind of line him up wherever you want, and he'll do a decent job for you. So Curtis Samuel will be an asset to any team. I don't think he'll be the highest paid receiver during this free agency. I think he's one of them where I think there'll be other receivers that will get big money deals. Right. But I do think he's a really good gadget guy for anybody.
No, I agree. I think he's one of those players that, maybe the 49ers, because I know they've got a very interesting offense, with the likes of Deebo Samuel and Kendrick Bourne. I don't think he's going to return. But if you put him in offense like Kyle Shanahan, where, Shanahan would get the best out of him, he's running back, wide receiver, similar to the Rams maybe with Sean McVay. I think if he went to a team that's got an offensive-minded head coach and knows how to use him, I think he could be a really, really good fit there. Another receiver, again, like we said, there's a lot of receivers on this year's market, and we've mentioned the similar teams that could be getting those receivers. Juju Smith-Schuster. Now, he's been pretty controversial this season with the likes of being on TikTok and dancing on people's logos, and he was kind of putting a big target on the Steelers from head, wasn't he, with his antics. Yeah. On his day, he's still a good receiver, but where do you think he ends up? Only 24 years of age. 2 seasons ago, you'd have laughed at the fact that the Steelers were letting this guy at free agency, but it's actually happened.
Yeah.
What happened to Juju?
He's just a wide receiver too. He's not a wide receiver 1. I think he needs to go to a place where there is an immediate wide receiver 1. This is why I'm not sure if he fits the likes of New England. I don't know if he can be then, because when he was alongside Antonio Brown, perfect. That is when you got the best out of Juju. So he needs to go somewhere where there is one elite receiver that can take the number 1 spot, and then Juju can come in and be back to the Smith-Schuster that was electric in his first couple of years in the NFL.
Yeah, I agree. He's one of those players that, like you said, when we saw Antonio Brown go to the Raiders, and he was the people saying the Steelers should have another receiver, but they were like, we've got Juju, we believe in him to be our number 1. He struggled quite a bit. He wasn't the same player. And that's why I said the Redskins, him and McLaurin is a 1-2 punch. I think that'd be really, really good, because we've seen McLaurin this season. He's pretty much the only standout receiver on that Redskins side, but he still averaged over 1,000. But he still got over 1,000 yards receiving. He had a great season. You put Juju opposite him, and all of a sudden teams have got to worry about 2 elite playmakers on the outside. So I think, I agree with you. Schuster, he probably or a team that's already got an elite receiver, so the Juju can kind of complement that player.
I'd actually, for some reason, I'm just thinking in my head, and I'm like, I don't know why, but I'd really like him with the Raiders. I like the fact that you've got electric straight line speed in Henry Ruggs. You've got experience in Nelson Aguilar, and then you'd have the thing is with the Raiders though, they've not got an immediate need at receiver.
Yeah,
like, it's not immediate, but I would just like the idea of having Juju Smith-Schuster, who is a dynamic playmaker, alongside straight line speed in Henry Ruggs as well, which I just think would be a really fun combination.
No, I agree. It would be a fun combination. I mean, the Raiders were a team last season that many people thought could make the playoffs, and if you had a player like Juju Smith-Schuster to the offense, it could take him over the top. And in a very, very tough division, you need playmakers. You need to put up points because you're coming up against Patrick Mahomes, for example. So if you want to win that division or even compete for it, then you need playmakers on the outside. So I think I completely agree that would be another good fit for Juju Smith-Schuster. Jonnu Smith is our next free agent, the Titan from the Titans. Again, a player that had a few good moments last season. I had him in my fantasy team for a few weeks. He was all right here and there, but tight end. What do you think the tight end market could look like this season? Obviously, we'll get onto another one as well, Hunter Henry, shortly. But
yeah,
I think the most likely situation for me is he returns to the Titans.
Yeah, I'm looking around the league, and a lot of teams do have their tight end situation pretty much sorted. Also, teams at the top end of the draft might not go for these because there might be a Kyle Pitts floating around near their area that they want. So you've also got to look at that aspect as well. If you're picking inside the top 10 and your quarterback is sorted, you might get Kyle Pitts fall to you. But there's also, again, a lot of teams in the league that have this position kind of sorted. The Cowboys might need a tight end. I know you like Dalton Schultz. I think the Jaguars definitely need a tight end, and they're going to take Trevor Lawrence with their first pick. So I think if they could pick up Hunter Henry or Jonnu Smith.
Yeah, and like you said, I did leave the Jags to decline his option, so the need is there. And obviously, you've got Pat Freemuth as well in the draft. Could be a second-round tight end. I think teams are just, with the current situation, again, I know I've said it many times, but is a team willing to pay a tight end over, for example, a defensive end, a corner? I think these tight ends, you might see them very low on teams' priorities. I don't think anyone's coming to this free agency as of right now and said we need to go get a tight end. I just can't see it personally. Similar to Hunter Henry, again, a tight end that's had injury issues for the Chargers. He's shown a lot of upside. He's shown a lot of talent to be a very good pass catcher. I know his rookie year he blew a lot of people away, but again, injury is a big concern for him. I think the Chargers didn't tag him, but I think the Chargers right now are probably the best chance of getting game time somewhere else because he's a good tight end, but I personally can't see anyone giving him more than a 1-year contract with the injury issues that he has.
Well, the good thing is for you, literally in the chat, lovely KMG has put thoughts on possible Chargers moves. So you think Hunter Henry will be returning to the Chargers?
I mean, it's probably the best fit in my opinion because that's the place that he's shown he can do well at. But again, he's got the upside, but who is willing to pay for him at this moment in time? I can't name a team on top of my head. But
yeah. But yeah. Aside from that, what do you think the Chargers are looking for? For me, if they're looking in free agency, they might look to protect Burrow in free agency with one of the offensive linemen. But I also think on defense as well, they're looking. There's a few places the Chargers could go really, and I think it's the same with the draft.
No, I agree. I mean, going into last season, we both said that their defense is looking very, very strong. Obviously, it's kind of been picked apart. They've released a few names here and there. I agree. Offensive line is definitely a place they need to look at. I mean, you could say defensive line. Linval Joseph was all right. Joey Bosa obviously elite.
Well,
I don't think they can bring back Melvin Ingram.
Jonnu Smith's on the move. Jonnu Smith is going to the Patriots for 4 years, $50 million.
Oof. So Bill Belichick has made the big splash in free agency that we didn't think he would do.
And of course, it's on a tight end. Because
not only did they pick 2 tight ends in the 3rd round last season, but they've now paid Jonnu Smith a massive contract.
It was literally what I was saying to Rowan earlier when we was in the lecture. I thought, every time in my head, it's Kyle Pitts to the Patriots because they never take receiver. They just like tight ends.
And there it is on the screen. 4 years, $50 million, includes $31 million guaranteed, but without doubt makes him one of the highest paid tight ends in the league. I believe we saw Austin Hooper last season get 4 years, 44. So Jonnu Smith has broke that one. Yeah, 4 years, 50. I mean, he's still pretty young. Still 26 years of age. He's shown to be an elite pass-catching tight end, but that's a good coup for the Pats. If you're a Pats fan, I think you'd be pretty happy with that signing because he team's finally gone out there and made a splash. But yeah, we were literally the same, weren't we? I think that we just completely jinxed him. I don't think he's going anywhere. Boom. 4 years, 50 with the New England Patriots. Fair play to him.
Do you think he's worth it?
I mean, it's around, what is it, around 12 million? Probably.
Yeah.
It's around 12, it's around 12 million. Let me have a look. How much is a 4-year deal worth? 50 million worth?
I mean, technically, it'd be something, I'm presuming 12.5 million or something along them lines. No, it might be even more.
No, you're right. 12.5 mil for him. So, yeah, it's one of them. If the Pats have got the money to pay him and they believe he's going to be a good fit in their scheme, then why not? But again, it's a lot of money to pay a tight end. I believe they could have, like you say, Kyle Pitts would have been one of their perfect targets in the draft. But if they believe that he's worth that money, then fair play to him. Go out and get paid, Jonnu Smith. Fair play to him. He's one of our first big deals of the day, pretty much.
Definitely. I'm just gonna get that piece up on the website just now. So If you are new, by the way, please make sure to like and subscribe. It's lovely to have you in here. Lovely KG. He wants the John Johnson II, who is an underrated safety from the Rams, and Corey Linsley, the centre, which would bolster your offensive line.
I agree. I think John Johnson's one of those players that he was big in the Rams Super Bowl run, a strong safety. Got that pick on Brees. He's very good in the run game as well. I think John Johnson. He's definitely could be a good target for the Chargers.
As we are just getting some stuff up now on the, I can't believe Johnny Smith. We were literally just talking about him 2 minutes ago, and of course he's going to the New England Patriots.
Crazy stuff. Probably alongside with Shaq Barrett, probably the biggest deal of the day.
Yeah. You're probably not wrong for it, and it's $31 million guaranteed.
A lot of money. It is a lot of money. Like I said, it's a past that Austin Hooper deal last season. But fair play to him. Go get paid, Johnny Smith.
Definitely go and get paid, because now it's down to Hunter Henry as probably the next best tight end on the board. I think Jaguars makes a lot of sense for him.
Yeah, possibly.
But if you want to go back to the list of the good hopefully next time we speak about them, they'll come up again.
Yeah, I'm just currently updating the ticker, but I'll save that now. Put it back on.
No worry.
Yeah, I think that's all set up. Well, yeah, a tight end goes off the ball, so Jonathan Smith signs with the New England Patriots. Good sign there for the Pats.
But next up on the list is, if I'm not wrong, it was just after Hunter Henry. As Leo Jackson says he wants William Jackson III to the Houston Texans. And unfortunately, that makes me sound like you're a Texans fan, which, at the moment, there's not much to be happy about. But what would you think? William Jackson III to Houston?
Yeah, I mean, why not at this point? If you're a Texans fan, you need all the help you can get. No offense, it's one of them teams that needs upgrades in nearly every single position. And William Jackson was good for the Bengals this past season. I feel like he's one of those corners that coming into free agency, he's going to get quite a big payday. And if you pair him with Bradley Roby at corner, I know you re-signed Vernon Hargreaves as well. It could be a good pickup for the Texans. I just wonder how much cap space you've actually got. But yeah, William Jackson, I think that'd be a good addition to your team. The next player, by the way, Kieran, on the ranking is Shaquille Griffin. We've talked about him briefly so far, being linked with the Vikings.
And the thing is, Seattle had a pretty rocky defense last year.
Yeah.
But I think Shaq Griffin is definitely good enough to be a starter, and obviously NFL experience. I think I'd like him inside our cornerback room with Gladney and Cameron Tiny Dantzler. So I think it'd be nice, and I think a lot of teams should be looking for a few corners.
I completely agree. We've got another deal, and it's for offensive tackle Cam Irvin, another offensive lineman going to the Carolina Panthers. It's a 2-year deal worth $10 million. $8 million guaranteed, and I know he played for the Cowboys a few seasons ago. I've seen a few Cowboys put on Twitter actually. Tom Downey's put laughed myself, give me that comp pick for Cam Irvin. He wasn't phenomenal for the Cowboys. Played with the Giants this past season, but yeah, Cam Irvin signs with the Panthers. So another deal there, another offensive lineman for the Carolina Panthers. They look to try and protect Teddy Bridgewater, possibly someone new at QB starting next season. And Washington, he's signing their kicker. Dustin Hopkins has been there a while now. He signed another 1-year veteran qualifying contract with 2.4. We'll call it $2.5 million, and he gets $1.8 million guaranteed. So the Redskins retain their kicker there. If there's anyone news coming through, but yeah, it's just kind of talk about the Johnny Smith deal that's kind of dominating Twitter so far.
Yeah, definitely. That was a big deal that I didn't expect to be coming this soon in the live stream. I'll be honest with you.
I agree. I completely agree with you. I think I thought it was going to be one of those players where he'd kind of sit around for a few days, but
yeah,
he signed a deal within the first hour pretty much of free agency. So fair play to Johnny Smith. But yeah, go on.
Did have his most productive year last year. I'm just looking at some of the stats. He has cracked 1,000 yards in his 4 seasons in the NFL, 1,300 yards, and he did have 8 touchdowns last year, which, to be honest with you, surprises me with Tennessee because I didn't expect him to have that many.
Well, yeah, like I said, I had him in my fantasy team, and he's one of those players where he'd either he'd either put up ridiculous stats one week and get a few touchdowns, or he won't turn up at all. But yeah, he's one of those players. He's more of a receiving tight end. I mean, you can use him as a blocker, but he's one of those players that's more. He's best in the passing game. I think, like we said, Cam Newton, the re-signing, obviously, they need to get more passing options out there, more passing targets for Newton. And he's got a brand new one in Jonathan Smith, who is an elite pass catcher. He had a good touchdown against the Ravens in the playoffs in 2019. But yeah, fair play to him. We've got another deal that's just come through as well. And I believe, if you're a Patriots fan, I think you've signed another player. And I think, yeah, they have, from a division rival, former Dolphins nose tackle, Devon Godchaux. I think that's how you say it. I might have butchered his name completely. He's agreed.
No, I think you did well.
What's that, mate?
I think you did well with the pronunciation.
Cheers, man. I appreciate that. David Godchaux, I think that's how I said it. Anyway, he's agreed a 2-year deal with the New England Patriots, $16 million. So the Patriots have literally signed 2 players in the space of about 15 minutes here, 10-15 minutes. And it's from a division rival, so they're weakening an opponent's defense and add another nose tackle. So Pat's going hard early on in free agency this season.
And to be honest with you, it's interesting because this is what we said, the complete opposite of what we expected.
Absolutely. We said Bill Belichick's one of those people that, if he can get away without paying for agency, he usually will do. But fair play to him, he's brought in 2 brand new players. And as we talk about free agency, there's another player that's on the open market, and I don't know how many times this guy's been a free agent in his past, but he's a free agent again this season, and it's Ryan Fitzmagic, 38 years of age. He's still looking for a new team. The rumours going around that he could retire, but where do you think Fitzmagic ends up? He's been linked with the Broncos, more specifically. It could be a bridge QB to Drew Lock. But what happens with Fitzmagic this offseason? What do you think?
I'll be honest with you. I think overall, again, I don't know if he's a starter. That's I think the main problem I've got is I'm not sure if he has got it in him yet, because for every time we have the magic that he's shown against the Raiders, we have the Fitzmagic to Fitz tragic quite quickly. So it's a difficult one for him to see where he's going to end up.
No, I agree. It's one of them. It's at this point who's going to bring him in as a starter. Really, it's not going to be many teams looking to bring in Ryan Fitzmagic as a starter. He could be a decent. We've seen him come in as a backup for the Dolphins last season. I thought he was harshly benched for Tua, and obviously had that phenomenal pass against the Raiders, which ended the Raiders' season. So, like you said, it's hit or miss with Fitzmagic. He's either going to throw 400 yards and 4 touchdowns, or throw for 150 yards and 3 picks. So you just don't really know what you're getting with Fitzmagic, and it's a reason why he's kind of bounced around the league a bit. Romeo Okwara, though, we've already mentioned him. He re-signed with the Lions on a big deal. Had 10 sacks in his previous season, so it was a career year for him. What do you think? Do you think he's worth the deal the Lions have given him? Keeping him around with his younger brother Julian.
To be fair, I think in terms of the Detroit Lions at the moment, they need some players to kind of not build the franchise around, but to get some stability, because the Lions have been a poor franchise for a long time. So I think to tie him down basically to a long-term deal makes sense for me for the Detroit Lions.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's one of those players that he's not a standout name, but for what he brings to the team and how effective he is, it was important for the Lions to get him back, and fair play, got a nice contract. Next player, Corey Davis, again a wide receiver that he was picked 5th overall in the 2016, I believe, 2017 NFL draft. He was a very high draft pick. He's done all right with the Titans. I wouldn't say he's exceeded expectations, but he's a free agent now. He can maybe sign somewhere else. I saw rumours that the Titans are expected to bring him back. Where do you think he ends up, Davis?
This past year, Corey Davis showed, in my opinion, what he was all about. Because to me, he was a really nice complementary piece for the Tennessee Titans. Because obviously, it's all on Derrick Henry. But to be fair, the two wide receivers in Tennessee, I think, really complemented it very well. And I liked what they had in Tennessee, but it depends if they're willing to bring him back. Because as you said, it was his most productive year, but will they bring him back?
That's the thing. That is the thing with Corey Davis. I know I had him in. He's one of those players that, one game he'd do very well opposite of AJ Brown. I know you had him on your bench for one of your games in fantasy where he was phenomenal, but he's also had games where he's not really turned up. He's a bit inconsistent in my opinion, as Corey Davis. Very, very talented. He's got the size, the speed, everything you want in a wide receiver. Corey Davis has got, and it's the reason why he was picked so high. But the Titans were reported they're not interested in bringing him back. Maybe the Jets, maybe the Jets pay him and say, we want to pay you as a wide receiver. What's that?
It's like you said, having AJ Brown on one side to Corey Davis, having Denzel Mims and Corey Davis, and also is it Rashad Breeland, I think, as well in there?
They had Rashad, they had Perryman, and they've also got Jameson Crowder as well.
Rashad Perryman, that's the one, not Rashad Breeland, Rashad Perryman. Yeah, and that's a really good wide receiver room if you are the New York Jets. You had Corey Davis to be the immediate 1-2 with Mims.
Yeah.
And then the other two, I think they're really good third and fourth options when you're running four receivers, receiver sets. And I think that makes the Jets a lot more fearful on offense. It just depends what they're going to do at the quarterback position. It immediately helps out whoever's under center next year for the New York Jets. As lovely KMG's put, a lot of Chargers fans want Juju to pair him with Keenan Allen. Obviously, you have, is it Mike Williams on the other side? Or
Mike Williams plays for the Chargers over Keenan Allen,
But he doesn't really want him because he feels they have other major needs. And I actually think I agree. I think Mike Williams is a decent enough wide receiver too. As speaking of Chargers news, Will, the Chargers are not going to be tendering Isaac Rochelle.
Rochelle, yeah. I've just literally seen that on Twitter as well. So at the same time as as Kieran said there, the Chargers are not tendering him. I believe if you're eligible for a tender, it means you're a restricted free agent. So he started 6 games for you, and apparently, according to Tom Pelissero, I'm no Chargers fan, but apparently it's a bit of a surprise. So he'll hit the market. We'll see who picks him up. The Chargers fan that's in the live stream actually. What's it called, Kieran?
Lovely KMG, mate.
Lovely KMG. Let us know in the comments what you think about Isaac Rochelle. Not coming back on a tender. He will hit the market as a free agent. So let us know what you think about that. Because obviously I'm not a Chargers fan, so I'm not too sure. I don't recognise the name. Is what I'm trying to say. But move on from Corey Davis. We had a bit of a chat about him to Dalvin Tomlinson, a player that I mentioned the Cowboys could possibly be interested in. He played for the New York Giants.
Yeah,
and some of those big guys. He's more of a nose tackle. You have your defensive tackles that like to rush the passer a bit. This guy is a flat on nose tackle. He's going to clog the middle up. He's going to stuff the run. 7 years of age. I think he could be a good signing for many teams. I think personally as a player, I'd like the Cowboys sign. Where do you think he could end up?
To be fair, the thing is, I would say I like him at the Vikings, but I think we've got our big body in Michael Pierce. I think he's our big body nose tackle. But in terms of, as you said, it's teams that, let's be fair, were absolutely horrific against the run. Politely, the Cowboys are one of them teams. So I think it does make a decent fit because obviously you tried to shore up. I think you shored up your defensive line this year with McCoy and Poe. But I think getting Dalvin Tomlinson in, it'd be a good addition to the Cowboys, in my opinion.
Yeah, and it's been a position where the Cowboys have needed a nose tackle for a long time. They like to bring the 3 techniques. Where, for example, Neville Gallimore, I thought he was a very good draft pick, and he didn't see much of the field. Unfortunately, I would have liked to see him get more snaps. But when he played, I thought it was really, really good. But he needs someone next to him that can almost mentor him and show him how to play the position a bit more. Because as much as I like Neville Gallimore, I'm seeing more of a pass rusher defensive end than Neville Gallimore. We need that big guy in the middle that's going to stop the run. I think Dalvin Tomlinson would, if you can get him for a good price, I think I would like to see him on the Cowboys. I mean, I'm not asking much from the Cowboys, but the way I say it, we'll miss out on Dalvin Tomlinson and we'll end up signing someone in a few weeks' time, someone that's completely washed up, because that's the Cowboys. That's what the Cowboys like to do in free agency most of the years. But the next player is John Johnson. We mentioned him, Kieran.
We did.
The Chargers possibly an option for him, but he's 25 years of age. He's been around. I don't know where he was drafted. I don't know where he drafted John Johnson, but he's been in Everstay in that Rams secondary. Got the pick on Drew Brees in the NFC Championship game, and has had a good few seasons. John Johnson, but I thought he'd be tagged by the Rams. Didn't end up being tagged. It's a free agent. Possible landing spots for John Johnson.
Yeah, I'll be honest, I'm surprised he's not come back. And I understand where actually lovely KMG might be coming from with we go into the Chargers, because the Chargers have Derwin James. Is it Derwin James who's always injured?
Yeah, Derwin James, yeah.
Exactly. And obviously, if you can get Derwin James fit and John Johnson, that you've got to immediately think that's some of the best safety pairings in the NFL.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And that's always been the thing with Derwin James. I think personally, one of my favourite players to watch in the NFL just because of how athletic he is, and he can play free safety, strong safety. He can even play a bit of corner because he's that athletic. But we've not seen him on the field enough. And I know they've got some young safeties in the Nasir Adderley, who was drafted in the second round a few years ago, but again, he's not really developed as much as they would like to. John Johnson, I think if they brought him in, he'd instantly bring the experience, the leadership, because he has been a starting safety on a Super Bowl team. Well, they didn't win the Super Bowl, but they made the Super Bowl in the NFC. So he's played in the big games. He knows how to make big plays. I think it would be a very good signing for any team, really. What's that, mate?
Oh, I was going to say, I think as well, maybe the Browns. I know the Browns are kind of a team that's been linked to Anthony Harris like the whole time because of the Kevin Stefanski link. But if Anthony Harris doesn't go to the Browns, I could see people picking up John Johnson.
Yeah, I agree. I think the Browns, obviously, they drafted Grant Delpit, and he instantly got injured, which was a massive shame for the Browns. But I know they tried to sign the lad from the Raiders. What was he called again now? The safety that they signed from the Raiders, the strong safety. If I can get his name back in my mind, I'll let you know. But they tried to sign him last season, didn't really work. And I agree. I think safety is a priority for them, without a doubt, for the Browns, because they've got a nice core in Denzel Ward, but they could do with a bit more help on the back end. Leonard Floyd is the next free agent. Again, signed a 1-year deal, was released by the Bears, former first-round pick. Signed that 1-year contract with the Rams. Did pretty well, I thought, especially against Seahawks. I think he got about 6 sacks against Seahawks in 3 games. A player that, he's 29 years of age now. He probably wants that long-term contract. Do you think anyone is going to give him that long-term contract? Because he's shown he can be productive. But do you think it was the scheme that made him pretty well? For example, playing next to Aaron Donald. Anyone can play with Aaron Donald.
I was going to say, to be fair, teams were probably double teaming one of arguably the most dangerous man in football in terms of how talented he is. But he did have a definite breakout year last year in terms of probably since his first year in the league, it was his best year. But as you say, at 29, it's one of them. You're going to get production. It just depends what you want, because I think you already. I don't know if I like him as someone's only pass rushing threat.
Yeah, and that's the thing. You probably like to see Leonard Floyd sign with a team that's got that established defensive end on one side, and Leonard Floyd coming on the other side and complement them well, similar to Robert Quinn when he played with the Cowboys a few years ago. He got that prove it deal, and he was good on that 1-year contract. But I can't see anyone giving him big bucks to be their number one defensive end. But I think he will definitely get a deal somewhere, because he's, as I said, he's a talented player, and he has a lot of production, especially last season with the Rams. Next cornerback, we've already mentioned him, William Jackson, as a possible target for the Chargers. Again, a very good player on his day. Second round pick, I believe, from the Bengals a few years ago. I believe he's going to be one of those players that gets paid quite highly just because of the need at cornerback and how old he is. Maybe the Bengals try and bring him back, but again, if they don't bring him back, where do you think he could possibly go? I mean, I think the Colts maybe could be a pretty good fit for William Jackson. Yeah,
another one where I'm a bit like, I think the Bengals should try and keep hold. A bit like Carl Lawson, really. I think they should try and keep these pieces that they've got, because when they're trying to rebuild this franchise, I do think William Jackson can be that corner that you can rely on for a good couple more years. But as you said, maybe the Colts are a good pickup for William Jackson. But wherever he goes, I mean, I don't mind any team that picks him up, because if they have the need at corner, again, do I think he's the number one guy? No, I think he's one of them who can line up with a team, but I'm not sure where.
Yeah, I agree. I think he's one of those players that he's definitely an outside corner with how tall he is, and outside corners. It's very, very rare you find a very athletic, tall cornerback in the NFL. You usually have your more slot corners and more of your athletic guys. But William Jackson's got traits to be a really, really good corner, and I think that's why someone is going to pay him handsomely in free agency this season. The next player was a player that got released, which means if somebody signs him, it will not affect the comp pick formula. And that's Mitchell Schwartz. And on his day, arguably the best in football, was released by the Chiefs to for cap relief. He's 32 years of age. He's probably still got a few years left in him. I mean, if I'm looking at a team that could possibly sign him, I mean, anyone could do with Mitchell Schwartz. Really.
Literally, that was exactly what I was going to say.
Yeah,
I was going to say this guy can come into a team and immediately be an upgrade on the offensive line. Of course, there's a few exceptions, But in general, I think Mitchell Schwartz is one of them. We were all surprised when the Chiefs kind of not culled their offensive line the other day, but it looked like they were getting rid of a lot of their immediate starters. And I don't believe it's because they're giving Mike Remmers any more time on the offensive line, but it was one of them where I think Mitchell Schwartz, wherever he goes, literally, it's one of them, as it mentioned in the article there, though, retirement, health, these are the question marks that come with if you get Mitchell Schwartz.
Yeah, and it's one of them. He's 32 years of age. He's probably coming towards the back. Well, he's coming towards the back end of his career, but he's a player that, if you sign Mitchell Schwartz, you know what player you're getting. Basically, you know that he's going to be that stalwart on the right tackle for you. And if you're a team that's desperately trying to compete, and you desperately need that offensive lineman to help protect your QB, Mitchell Schwartz is available on maybe a 1-2 year contract. I mean, it could be the perfect signing for some teams. It really, really could be. Shelby Harris, defensive lineman from the Broncos. He was available last year. I thought he'd get more attention than he did, but no one ended up signing him and re-signing with the Broncos on a 1-year deal. He's now 30 years of age. I didn't see much of him last season for the Broncos, but to be honest, I didn't watch many Broncos games. Shelby Harris, again, I think the 1-year deal, unfortunately, is going to be where what he signs again this offseason.
Yeah, not his most productive year in Denver this year, to be honest with you. And I think it's what you said. Is the market for Shelby Harris going to be very high? I don't think so. I think he's one of them that is a short-term solution for a team that might are looking for their pass rusher of the future down the road.
Yeah.
But I just don't think in terms of the Broncos and Shelby Harris that anyone's going to be immediately trying to sign. But what I'm basically saying is he's going to be. I think he'll be a better option for a team with a lot of lower cap space.
Yeah, I think he's one of those players that if you need some defensive line depth, you're struggling to get the money. I think Shelby Harris could definitely be a serviceable player. He can play defensive end, or he can play in the middle of the defensive line. He's one of those players that you can get after the passer, and he can do a job if you want to bring in some more depth. But another player that's probably coming towards the end of his career, but again, very, very experienced player. And I believe he was once called the sack master for the Chiefs when he played. He's just in Houston, played with the Colts this past season. Again, knows that I get to the pass rusher. Knows that I get to the QB as a pass rusher. A player again that I think if you're a contending team, why not bring him in on a 1-year deal?
Yeah, and to be honest, how does he have long time left as a starter? Maybe not. I think he's veering probably towards the latter end of his career. I no longer think he deserves a sack master title, unfortunately. But I think he's one of them. He's kind of very similar to what we've said about Shelby Harris. But lovely KMG, while we're on the term of edge rushers, he would love to pair Leonard Floyd with Joey Bosa.
I think that'd be a good fit, without a doubt. Definitely.
I mean, it's you know what?
Stays in Los Angeles. What's that, man?
Yeah, and Nick Bosa has an elite pass rush partner. So I think it's only fair that Joey gets an elite pass rush partner too.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think he's one of those players that, going back to Leonard Floyd, he's one of those players that, like we said, if you line him next to a star defensive end, he can definitely do a job for you. Definitely do a job. I'm just looking if we're getting any more tweets through about any possible signings, but as of right now, not much going on in the past 10, 15 minutes or so, but a player that could be. Go on, mate, were you going to say something?
The only news I'm seeing is one that's just come out by Tom Pelissero about they're not allowed direct contact with players, only their agents, which means 4 people can't be talked to because they don't have agents. And them 4 are Larry Fitzgerald, Jacoby Brissett, Alfred Morris, and Richard Sherman. So they can't be contacted because they don't have an agent. As the reason comes in and just says that charges suck. So fair enough.
They didn't do very well last season, but the future is bright with Justin Herbert QB. Next one, this guy is also very intriguing to me, Hassan Reddick. He's listed as a linebacker. He plays as an edge for the Cardinals. I believe he had 5 or 6 sacks in one game. It kind of boosted his stats up a lot, but he's one of those players that's super athletic. I just don't believe he's managed to find that position, managed to find the proper scheme for him yet. But I think if someone got him on a good team-friendly deal, I think he could definitely cause a lot of disruption on that defense.
Yeah, I think you worry that it was just 1 year of super production from Hassan Reddick. I don't know if you can rely on him to be getting that sort of thing every single year, especially as you said, where does he line up? Outside linebacker, inside linebacker, defensive end. I don't really know what he is. And last year was such a good year for Hassan Reddick, where I wonder if next year he goes somewhere, you will see a definite drop off. But would you take a gamble? I don't, because of his productivity, he might demand a decent amount of money, but then you worry that when you pay him that much money, that you will not get the same level of production.
And that's the thing, innit? I think teams will be hesitant, with him only having that 1 year production. He was a former first round pick. He only kind of popped this last season. So it's a team looking at him thinking, he's going to be we're going to pay him loads of big bucks because we know that he's going to produce. I don't think teams will be looking at it like that. I think they'll be looking to bring him on a prove it deal, see what he does the next season. But again, I think there'll be teams interested. Without a doubt, there'll be definitely teams interested. Same with this guy, Jayon Brown, who's a very athletic linebacker for the Titans. Again, he's more of an inside player, but he can definitely blitz the QB. I think he's another player very similar to Hassan Reddick that probably looks again that 1 year, maybe 2 year deal from another team. Or maybe the Titans bring him back because I know he was a good fit on their defense.
And by the way, I'm also just searching, and apparently the 4 players that I just mentioned, clubs can contact them directly, but they're the only 4 lone exceptions to talking to agents. Right. So if you're trying to sign anybody else, you have to go to their agent, whereas you can contact Fitzgerald, Brissett, Morris, and Sherman all together. As Malfieri 760 asks, would love to hear who you guys think the Raiders will acquire through free agency. And immediately for me, I'm thinking defense.
Yeah, well, if you want to go ahead first, I'll let you go ahead first. I know there's a few players that I'm definitely thinking about them targeting. Who would you say?
Well, I'm thinking defensively. I think you need to. I think bolster the secondary. I think if you're the Raiders, I think you definitely need to bolster the secondary because your offense wasn't awful last year, but your defense was losing you games. In my personal opinion, I don't know if you agree with me. You can tell me if I'm wrong.
No, I agree. I was going to say defensive end because it's one of them positions that the Raiders are trying to invest so much into to get that play. I mean, John Gruden was like, we need a pass rusher. We desperately need a pass rusher. But this is the same guy that traded Khalil Mack away. So you can't moan about not having a pass rusher if you trade one away. But yeah, the Raiders, I think a defensive end for them would be a good target. They've got Max Crosby, who's a pretty good defensive end, but Clellan Ferrell, the first round pick, he struggled to get going so far for the Raiders, which is a shame because he was picked so early in the draft. Maybe definitely overdrafted. But defensive end, I think, would be a good target for the Raiders. Maybe they could target someone like a Carl Lawson, another young defensive end that they can pair with Max Crosby. Maybe bolster up the interior of the defensive line. I know there's not many players on the market that could pop instantly and think, we're going to get him to put on the interior. We've just seen David Godchaux go to the Pats. But yeah, defensive line on the interior and pass rush. I think those are the 2 positions I'd look to target if I was a Raiders fan. I think those are the big areas that. If you want to win games, like Kieran said, your defense let you down a lot. But the way you improve your defense is get pressure on the QB because it can improve your secondary along with that.
Yeah, it eases a lot of pressure on your secondary. Obviously, you drafted Damon Arnett last year, and we're yet to really see maybe the best of him. But if you could pick up, I think, someone in that secondary in free agency to help out the likes of Arnett. So, yeah, I think basically we're looking at defense, but also it'll be interesting to see if possibly in the draft you address QB because we don't know what Derek Carr and Marcus Mariota looks like. He might be going somewhere else. I've heard that trade rumors about Marcus Mariota.
Yeah, and it's one of them. I think Marcus Mariota. I don't. Did he play for the Raiders last year? Did he get any game time for the Raiders last year?
Yeah. Derek Carr got injured on a. I can't remember if it was like a Friday night game or a Sunday night game. I think Malfieri might have to tell me. But Marcus Mariota, I remember his first play of the game. I think he was I think it was a QB run and I think he dove for a touchdown and everyone thought, oh, wow, this is why he was the first round pick. But in terms of apart from that, I think Derek Carr then returned to the game. I think Malfieri will have to let me know, but I'm pretty sure it was either a Friday night game or a Sunday night game where Derek Carr went out injured with, I think it was a hamstring, if I remember rightly. Yeah,
because I'm trying to think. I do remember him getting some games. I'm somewhere, I don't remember him pretty vividly. But yeah, I agree with you. I think. And even offensive line, they got rid of Reggie Incognito. They traded away Trent Brown to the Pats for basically nothing, who they signed a few years ago in a massive contract. So there's holes in the offensive line that could definitely be addressed. And that you still got Rodney Hudson, who's one of the best centers in the NFL. But offensive line, that could definitely be another position for the Raiders. There's a lot of areas, but
we've just listed everything.
We just listed the entire team, to be honest.
Yeah, I think wide receiver, you're all right, mate. And yeah, it was Carr's groin on Thursday Night Football. I remember seeing that he went off with an injury, and Marcus Mariota had to come in, and I think he impressed immediately, and then kind of tapered off, and he didn't quite, he didn't have an Ian Heineke performance, which is what I'm now quoting everything like when a player comes in and impresses, they are now not Ian Heineke. He's a bloody UFC fighter. Taylor Heineke. Yeah. I made this same mistake with Rowan the other day. Ian Heineke is a UFC fighter. Taylor Heineke is an electric QB that came in for the football team and almost got them a playoff win. And I just was in love with it.
He did. I mean, like you say, it was 8 points between him and the Super Bowl champions. I mean, fair play to him. He was phenomenal. I mean, I know he came in as he replaced Dwayne Haskins when Haskins got benched against I can't remember who it was again. I think it was the Panthers, but he came in and I thought this guy's actually pretty good. And then he started that playoff game and he was very, very good for the football team. And he got an extension this offseason.
On mic'd up, Chase Young absolutely loved Heineke. Yes. And I tell you what, he's one that it's incredible that guy's become a team captain already at such a young age. As Malfieri agrees with pretty much everything we've said. So basically, you need a full new team. It's a good start to just get a new team completely.
I mean, John Gruden's got that 10-year contract, so he's got plenty of time to build a new team. But some news here on the centre Corey Lindsey we're talking about. I know Peter Strager, he's got the entire sources. A team to watch is possibly the Arizona Cardinals. Now, we said last season in the draft and free agency that the Cardinals need to get the offensive lineman to protect Kyler Murray. They eventually took Isaiah Simmons because he was kind of there and they thought, let's pick him up. I know they drafted James. Who was it? James Jones, something like that, later on in the draft. But yeah, they've been needing offensive line for help now. They've been needing offensive line up for a while now of the Cardinals. And Corey Lindsey, possible All-Pro target, and Arizona, as you can see, that they've made protecting Kyler Murray its chief priority this offseason.
Well,
do you think we can prize him away from the Packers, Corey Lindsey?
I mean, Arizona is a team that is on the move. Like last season is when they started it, obviously with D-Hop and making that absolutely massive trade. And then even this year, they've managed to pick up Watt already. And then if they get Corey Lindsey as well, and we know that Kyler Murray's got unbelievable escapability, but you want to protect him as much as you can. So when he's under pressure, he can kind of make the throws instead of constantly scampering around everywhere. So for me, I think it'd be an absolutely incredible signing, because if you think that the Cardinals would become immediate contenders in one of the toughest divisions to win, as a lovely KMG, because we were talking about Washington football team not too long ago. He's asked on who the Washington football team will sign or what maybe areas they might need to look to. And for me, please ignore the defense, because I'm sick of you signing. I think you say sign, so I won't say quarterback, because I don't think there's a quarterback on the market you can sign.
I think receiver.
Yeah, literally, you've got
receiver on the line.
Yeah, you've got your immediate wide receiver one in Terry McLaurin. You've got Gandy Golden. You've got the two Sims, but you need a wide receiver too. And I think he's immediately the one that I think of. Tight end, I think Logan Thomas came on leaps and bounds last year.
He was good for last year.
Yeah, as a kind of, and it was really an impromptu tight end. He was never a tight end before.
Do you know what?
Yeah,
a player that I think we've literally just talked about a few minutes ago. Mitchell Schwartz, possible target for the Redskins. I know the football team made the post last season in a very weak NFC East, but if they want to come back next season and possibly go again and try and get into post again, Mitchell Schwartz in the offensive line can't hurt you. Whoever you bring in as QB, if you keep Heineke or whatever, Schwartz, an experienced offensive lineman that would instantly bring protection. So an average offensive line, I know they've got Brandon Scherf who got tagged again, but if you can get someone like Mitchell Schwartz on the offensive line, I think that would be a good addition to the Redskins, if you want a specific player, that is.
I mean, lovely KMG said Curtis Samuel to pair with Terry, which I think is another player that could definitely be a immediate pair. It depends where they want to go with it, because they've got an okay wide receiver room, but I think they need that star one to go alongside Terry McLaurin. As Malfieri says, new team, offense is great, which is true. you have a good offense, and Incognito will be back as it's just a restructuring of his deal, but he wants to cut Mariota.
Yeah, and to be honest, even like Kieran said, you could probably trade him and get something for him, but there's an NFL update here, and it's on John Johnson, who we were talking about. Apparently, he's got strong interest among teams. Jacksonville, Detroit, Cleveland, and Philadelphia. And someone's put here, we'll be interested to see if the Chargers check in with Brandon Staley here. Thrive with Staley as defensive coach. So, the Chargers, like I said, a possible landing spot for John Johnson. They're interested along with 4 other teams. And someone's put Philadelphia has negative $90 million in cap space, and now we are bidding on a free agent safety one.
Which, I mean, to be fair, it's like when the Saints were making moves and you just question how they're able to do it with the cap space win. But to be fair, lovely KMG said earlier the link between Brandon Staley and John Johnson that could maybe see the two link up again.
Yeah, and I think, like I said, John Johnson, one of those players that is experienced safety, he's more of a box safety. But if you put him in your on the back end with Derwin James, that is a very, very good safety tandem that you've got there. That's if Derwin James can stay healthy. I've just seen this Cowboys update here. It's on Gerald McCoy, who obviously the Cowboys did sign last off into a 3-year deal before they cut him due to that injury. But a source says here, Calvin Watkins is a pretty reliable Cowboys journalist. But source said Cowboys taking a wait-and-see approach with DT Gerald McCoy coming off quad injury. McCoy missed the 2020 season and remained in Dallas area working out. And I know he was talking to some of the Cowboys' young defensive linemen even when he wasn't on the team, so that was good of McCoy. From what it sounds like, Kieran, he clearly wants to be a Dallas Cowboy. Do you think they'll bring him back in, or do you think they'll just kind of look for somebody else?
I think it's annoying because you'll have to see what he's coming off that quad injury. If he's still saying that, I think we'll have to see with what the Cowboys do and whether I don't want to say see what options are out there, and maybe it's one of them. Maybe they don't know what they have, and so they've looked elsewhere and they can't get someone as good. Yeah,
and it's one of them. McCoy probably will be available on a cheap deal. And I do like Jerome McCoy. I think he's a very experienced veteran leader in the defensive line, but I would prefer at this point in time someone maybe like a Dalvin Tomlinson. I think he'd be a better fit. He's younger. I think he's got more to offer. But I wouldn't hate the Cowboys bringing McCoy in because, like I said, he brings the leadership, and it can't be any worse than what we've already got. It's that simple because our defensive line absolutely stinks at the minute.
Relatable.
But we'll go back to the targets that were the free agent list that we were talking about, and the next player on the list is Jason Verrett. He kind of had a revival with the 49ers. He's played their last few seasons, signed a 1-year deal after being injured on the Chargers. Where do you think he'll end up? I think the 49ers will look to re-sign this guy. I think he's a really, really good fit on their defense.
Well, yeah, because they're losing a key member of their secondary, an experienced member of their secondary, and I think bringing back Jason Verrett, as much as he's probably not as big a name as Sherman is. I think it's just a solid re-signing. But the guy after him on the list, I'm a big fan of.
Ronald Darby. I agree.
I'm a massive fan.
I'll let you talk through Ronald Darby because I know he was very good for the Skins. They signed him on a 1-year contract last year. Former Philadelphia Eagle. Only 27 years old. I think he could get some good offers here, Kieran.
Yeah, and I completely agree. I've got to admit, last year, I think, a lot gets said about the defensive line. Maybe that is a reason that Ronald Darby impressed me so much last year because that front seven put a lot of pressure on the quarterbacks, which made it a little bit easier. But when Ronald Darby was playing, I watched because genuinely impressed me. The guy didn't have an interception last year, but that doesn't mean, the stats don't prove how good Ronald Darby was. The guy had defended 16 passes last year. He might not get the pick. It's like Byron Jones from the other year. He might not get the interception numbers, but if you're looking for a man to just match up with any receiver in the NFL, I'd back Ronald Darby to man up against anybody.
And the thing is, interceptions are not everything because, if a player's not getting interceptions, it could just be a sign that they're not getting thrown to because their coverage is that good. And I think Ronald Darby being paired with Kendall Full last year, it was a great fit for the Redskins on the back end. They obviously had some safeties in Cameron Curl, I believe, and Monte Nicholson. So that was a very fun secondary to watch. And when you've got players like Chase Young, Montez Sweat on the defensive line, the fact that you have players like Darby at the back end that can hold up and give those defensive linemen time to get to the QB, it shows how good of a it really was.
Yeah, I absolutely love Ronald Darby, and To be fair, I actually liked his fit with the football team, but it'd be interesting to see if he can come to. I'd like him at the Vikings. Why not? That's all right, because I'll keep talking, because the next person on the list I did see was T.Y. Hilton, who I actually writ about the other day. And T.Y. Hilton, for me, doesn't have the level to be, again, the wideout number one. He's 31 years old. He's had a couple of injury problems since moving to the Colts, but or since being with the Colts over recent seasons. But I think that T.Y. Hilton is useful on a team as a wide receiver 2 / a rotational wide receiver. He's one of them people that, for quarterbacks that need experienced targets, in my head, I'm thinking Jalen Hurts needs a guy who's just going to catch the ball. And for me, that's exactly what T.Y. Hilton would bring to Philadelphia. As Will leaves me again. Wow, I have been absolutely rattled here. He's back. Anything you want to say on T.Y. Hilton?
I do apologise. I was just getting asked what I wanted from the tea, and then my dad was like, so I couldn't ignore him. But yeah, T.Y. Hilton was one of those guys I mentioned. He's an experienced receiver. He brings a lot of speed. I think he's a still good receiver on his day, but the injury concerns is what annoys me. I think if I'm the Packers, I'm just ringing him in and say, do you want to come on a 1-year deal? Because at the end of the day, he can't be any worse than what the Packers have got. I know they've got Devontae Adams, who's a phenomenal receiver, but outside of that, the Packers are pretty short on weapons. I know Kieran won't enjoy that, but Kieran's got to take into account that he's got Tiny Dancer at cornerback, who probably locks T.Y. Hilton up.
You're trying to tell me that you don't rate Marquez Valdes-Scantling? I cannot, but the man who can't catch a ball for love nor money, Marquez Valdes-Scantling.
Marquez Butterfingers Scantling. That is because he had a bit of a stinker. I mean, the only thing I remember Marquez Valdes-Scantling doing last season was against the Vikings, where he caught that long touchdown. Other than that, he was dropping everything.
Of course, it was against us as well. But Malfieri says a really good take on T.Y. Hilton from us. The Eagles would be a good spot. And that's where I think he fits perfectly, because he's a reliable receiver. And then, also you'll have Jalen Reagor on one side. It's, chalk and cheese. And I think it'd be a very good pairing for Jalen Hurts if he is to be QB1 in Philadelphia.
Yeah, and I think Jalen Hurts deserves to be given a chance to be QB number 1, because I think he's got the talent. And if you surround him with better talent, I like Miles Sanders at running back. I think he's good for the Eagles. And like I said, Jalen Reagor and T.Y. Hilton, that's some serious speed at wide receiver, some serious speed. But the next player, we'll move on. Carlos Dunlap. He got traded to the Seahawks before the deadline, and he was pretty good. He brought some, pass rushing off the edge for the Seahawks that they lacked a lot. But he was cut by the Seahawks to save money. The Seahawks have reportedly, rumoured to be wanting to bring him back on a cheaper deal. And I think that's where he fits, to be honest with you, because I think we saw a rejuvenated Carlos Dunlap for the Seahawks when he got traded last season. Yeah,
I think if the Seahawks let go of Carlos Dunlap, I worry for them, because they don't have much else in terms of rushing the passer. And I think he really was productive last year in a team that, let's be fair, again, the Seahawks defense was poor all over. But I think Dunlap had some splash moments last year, and I think he's the one that they need to bring back to. I think they still need someone to partner with him. But if you can bring back Carlos Dunlap, maybe, as you say, $14 million is not worth, but I think a 2-year deal maybe for Dunlap. If not, probably just a 1-year deal.
Yeah, I think either way, I think it's important that the Seahawks do bring him back, because he's, like you say, he's one of those players that you know what you get with Carlos Dunlap. He's shown that he can get to the quarterback. He had some down years for the Bengals, but again, the Bengals weren't a phenomenal side, so it was tough, maybe tough for Dunlap to get a lot of pressure for a bad team. But we saw him as soon as he got traded to a winning team like the Seahawks. He performed really well. So I think, if you're a Seahawks fan, you like to see him back. Next player, Andy Dalton. We have mentioned Andy Dalton today. Rumoured that the Cowboys want to bring him back as a backup QB behind Dak Prescott. He had a pretty good year, but again, that's taken into account the Cowboys receivers that they have. Not many teams in the NFL have the talent. The Cowboys have a wide receiver. I know the offensive line was decimated. I thought he did an all right job. I mean, at the end of the day, he was a backup QB, and you can't expect a backup quarterback to do everything the starter does. But if not returned to the Cowboys, do you think he could be a starter elsewhere, Andy Dalton?
I don't think so. I just don't think he can. He can be, but I don't think he's the option that teams will be looking for. Yet again, we saw Cam Newton last year was waiting until the very final end. So one for me, I definitely think genuinely, a football team may look at him if they can't fix that quarterback problem. Because yes, Taylor Heineke, of course, but they've just got rid of Alex Smith because they didn't want the cap that came with Alex Smith. So Andy Dalton may be a 1-year fix for the likes of football team. But as you said, in Dallas, it was one of them. It was a favourable position. And to be fair, there was moments where he looked like a backup quarterback, because I remember against us, should have been picked off about 5 times, and he just wasn't. So I think in terms of, is he a start? Can he be a starter? Yes. Should he be? No. But if I'm looking at teams, maybe the Dolphins want a backup to Tua if they can't get Fitzmagic back, and he's their get out of jail free when they're losing. Maybe, but I just don't know where he starts in the division.
That's the thing. I think maybe a good landing spot for him. I don't think he's going to go there, but I think a possible, if they're interested, Denver Broncos maybe, because I think Drew Lock's one of those players that he could do with a bit of mentoring and I think he needs to up his confidence. But again, if Drew Lock doesn't perform, I think Andy Dalton, it's not a bad solution, because you look at the weapons that the Denver Broncos have got. They've got Cortland Sutton, who unfortunately got injured, which was pretty tough for them. Very good second-year wide receiver that tore his ACL, unfortunately. And they've also got Noah Fant, a very good young tight end. They've got your boy from the draft, KJ Hamler. So there's weapons are there, and I think you could put Andy Dalton in that offense with the improving offensive line. I think he could do a bit of work with the Broncos, maybe. When
you said my boy from the draft, I thought you were going to say Albert Okwuegbunam. I was banking on it being Albert O.
Him as well, but he also tore his ACL, unfortunately.
Yeah, no.
Poor Albert O.
Just a rough break. As Malfieri says that Dalton would be a good mentor. That's what I mean. I don't think his years as a starter in the NFL, there's not many of them left, especially.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's what Dalton wants, but QBs, no matter if they're a backup or star, they get paid a pretty decent bit of chunk of money anyway. But moving on to David Andrews, another Patriots offensive lineman like Joe Tooney. Andrews is also a free agent, and he's a bit older. He's a bit older, but he's been a starting center for many Super Bowl winning teams on the Patriots. I mean, I think he probably returns to the Patriots on maybe a short-term deal. That's looking like the more likely. But if he doesn't, again, we've already mentioned teams that need offensive linemen. Everyone can do with an offensive lineman, but there are certain teams out there that could definitely do with a starting offensive lineman over other teams.
It's one of them where the lovely KMG mentioned earlier, the Chargers, he wants Corey Linsley. Corey Linsley's market is very, very high, I would presume.
Yeah.
If you could pick up David Andrews, who would do a very similar job, for a little less cap hit, I'd take David Andrews as a Chargers fan. I'm not, if I was.
I agree with that take, absolutely. And moving on to a Minnesota Vikings player who got tagged last season just before free agency started. It's Anthony Harris. I know you mentioned the Browns as a possible suitor. I mean, I personally like him on the Cowboys. I think he'd be a good fit next to Donovan Wilson. But when it's all said and done, do you think Anthony Harris ends up? Well, where do you think he ends up? Because I don't think he ends up back on the Vikings.
No, I don't think so either. I think we've got Harrison Smith back there. Apart from that, maybe we look at the draft and hopefully pick up, if we can get into the second round, pick up maybe an Andre Sisco, someone like that. Because I think overall, Anthony Harris last year was a massive regression from the year before. The year before was outstanding, and understandably he was franchise tagged because they may have wanted to work out a long-term deal. To be fair, Smith and Harris have a nice tandem, and they had to be the experienced heads in a really young secondary, and had to I felt a bit bad for them. They had to carry some people along to start the season, because these are rookies, so they weren't always going to be immediate impact players. But I think, he had a rough last year, and I can't see him returning. I wouldn't be against it, but it'd have to be on a cheapish deal.
And that's the thing. I think if it's a cheap deal, why not bring him back in as a veteran leader? He knows the system really well. But I think the Vikings, they're pretty tight in cap space. I think they've got other areas that just, that are more important than bringing back Anthony Harris once again.
Yeah,
that's my opinion anyway. But I think he's definitely a player that's still serviceable, and I think he will be a starter next season for somebody. Definitely. The next player is Mike Hilton, who played for a very good defense last year, the Pittsburgh Steelers. Still only 27. He's more of a slot corner, not very tall, but he's one of the better slot corners in the game. Played very well next to Joe Hayden on the outside for the Steelers at cornerback. Do you think the Steelers look to bring him back, or do you think maybe someone else brings him in? I mean, I remember I did a Colts franchise mode, and I actually did sign Mike Hilton, so he was pretty good for me. Where do you think he could end up?
Yeah, Steelers rough on cap space. It's fair to say. So I don't know how much how much they'll have to bring him back for. But as you said, a very good slot corner who was on a very good defense last year. So I think there'll be teams that definitely want him.
Yeah, I agree. I think he's going to get a decent contract. He's one of the better, corners on the market. But we'll have to see how his market develops. The next player is Melvin Ingram, a veteran defensive end for the Chargers. I don't think they're going to bring him back. They might look elsewhere, but do you think a team could use Melvin Ingram as a veteran defensive end?
Yeah, I can see that. Again, I think it's a 1-year deal for Ingram wherever he goes. I don't think there's going to be much in terms of market. As you say, the guy is injured a lot of the time, so it's really hard to rely on him to come in. But maybe as when he's fit, a rotational edge rusher can definitely still get to the quarterback. But he's one of them players that I could see. I think we'll be waiting a while before people go and race for Melvin Ingram.
I agree. I think it could be maybe similar to an Everson Griffin situation where you see a team that's maybe contending or, they just need to bring somebody else in. Maybe they think, let's give Melvin Ingram a short-term deal. He knows how to get to the passer. He could be a possible option. I think you might see a similar market develop for Melvin Ingram this season. Another player who's, I think, one of the more underrated running backs in the league, but again, he's also one of the more running backs that's usually injured. That's Chris Carson, who's, he's come from nowhere. I think he was undrafted, but again, the Seahawks, they like to make something out of nothing because they are one of those teams that play undrafted players, and somehow they find a lot of gems, and Chris Carson's been one of those. But again, running backs, you don't really want to pay him the big bucks nowadays. Chris Carson, do you think there could be a suitor for him? I mean, I've seen the Dolphins maybe rumoured to get in on him, but again, a player that I can't really see getting a long-term deal, unfortunately, just because of the position that he plays.
No, I think if there was going to be one, it was Aaron Jones in this market. And I don't think that in terms of, as you say, teams that are willing to think, there's a few teams in need of maybe a running back. The Patriots are in need of a running back, I would say. I think they're still lacking a clear number one. But as you said, I don't think people, again, the running back market is a difficult one because unless you are the top tier, you are very replaceable.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's one of them. It's, you see players like Derrick Henry's and Dalvin Cook's getting extensions, but Alvin Kamara's. But those are the players that, like you said, they've proved they can stay healthy. They've proved they're very important to the offense. And Chris Carson, although he's a good player, he's not an outstanding player, and he can be replaced. I do agree with you. I've just gone on Twitter actually, and I've seen some Cowboys news again coming from Calvin Watkins. It says here that the source said that the Cowboys are interested in free safety Damontae Kazee. He played 4 games in 2020 before suffering an Achilles injury, so he's fully healed now. And I've seen Damontae Kazee play a few games for the Falcons. I know he had a season where he was the starter because Ricardo Allen got injured and he was very, very good. But yeah, Damontae Kazee, what do you think of the Cowboys pick? Do you think he'll be a starter next to Donovan Wilson, or do you think he'll be more of a rotational player?
I would personally say more of a rotational player to begin with. I think in terms of, if you'd have got the likes of maybe an Anthony Harris, I could see him coming in and being a starter. But I think, there's no reason you don't bring in Damontae Kazee on a prove-it deal after his injury. And, it's one of them like when you brought in Clinton Dix last year and it didn't work out. So it wasn't like a massive detriment to the franchise at all. It's just one of them. It's a quick fix. As Malfieri puts the Ingram to the Raiders under Gus Bradley. Maybe.
Could be. I mean, like you say, it's for one of those, we've mentioned the Raiders definitely need a defensive end, and if you want to bring in someone short term opposite Max Crosby, he could be a guy. Yeah, Melvin Ingram definitely could be a guy.
Yeah.
Next player on the list, Eric Fisher. We mentioned the other tackle, Mitchell Schwartz, for the Chiefs getting released. Eric Fisher was also released with them. A former first overall pick, by the way, Eric Fisher in 2013. Where do you think he could end up? I mean, I thought the Chiefs could possibly bring him back on a cheaper deal. They released him because of the cap space situation, but Eric Fisher is a starting caliber left tackle in the NFL. I think there'll be a few teams maybe looking to get him in on a cheap, maybe a couple of year deal.
Yeah, again, Chargers, I think might be another one where you might as well get someone who can protect Thingy. The Bengals, maybe Thingy as well, but the Bengals are in a position where they might get Penei Sewell, so they may avoid going for that if they can get it in the draft, or shift one of them to right tackle or push one into guard, depending on how you line up, and then you've got a solid offensive line with a couple of stars in there. So it's kind of what we said. The teams that are looking for pass protection or run blocking, they're they're the teams you're going to look for. Protect the young quarterbacks.
Absolutely. I think Eric Fisher is one of those guys, like I said, he's played in big games, and he could even be used as more of a mentor as well. I think whoever gets him is getting a starting caliber tackle. Age 30, he's still got many years left in the NFL. KJ Wright, Seahawks linebacker, again, he's a player that's been around. I mean, he was still playing for the Seahawks when they had the Legion of Boom defense. So again, another very, very experienced player. He can be used as a pass rusher, he can be used as an inside linebacker. Very versatile, but he's 32 years old now. I think he's another player that could possibly get a 1-year contract. Yeah,
first linebacker on the list as well, which is, I think, well, no, apart from Bud Dupree and stuff like that. But like, as you said, in terms of teams that want KJ Wright, I agree with you. I think it'll be a 1-year, not a massive chunk of money deal for a guy that, is 32. He's a good player. But he's not going to be your starting linebacker. But he will be an experienced member of your roster who could help lead a young defense, maybe.
Yeah, definitely could definitely be like a rotational player for a competing team. Just a player that you can bring in, and on that 1-year contract, he's going to give you something to the team because you know what the type of player KJ Wright is. But the next player, Rob Gronkowski. I mean, this guy went from a WWE wrestler to a borderline Super Bowl MVP in a year. It was phenomenal to see him in the Super Bowl, absolutely dominate with Tom Brady again. They were rolling back the years. 32 years old. You still think he's got something to offer? And if so, where do you think he ends up? I mean, the Buccaneers is a possible landing spot, obviously, because they've already had him last season. Do you think anyone? Do you think he's signed anybody else at this point?
No, he ain't going anywhere. He's going with Tampa Bay or inevitably maybe retire. I just can't see him with any other team. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, and it's one of them. I think. The only reason he went to the Bucs was because of Tom Brady. That their connection is something special. It's developed over the years in New England. I agree with you. I think he either goes to the Bucs or he hangs at the boots. But I think the Bucs would like to have him back just because of how good he was in that Super Bowl. He's shown that he can still do something in that offense.
Yeah, definitely.
The next player is Nelson Aguilar. And to be fair, Nelson Aguilar was one of those players who was drafted by the Eagles. People thought it was going to be a bit of a bust. But he signed for the Raiders on a 1-year deal. And he was actually very, very good for them. Still 28 years of age. We know the speed that he possesses. He has the occasional tendency to drop a few easy passes, but again, was very good for the Raiders last season. Do you think he returns there, or do you think a new team comes in for Nelson Aguilar? I think the Raiders could look to bring him back, to be honest.
Yeah, I agree, actually. I think he was very impressive for his 1 year in Las Vegas last year. He was one of and amazingly, for what we've said about him in the past, he was much more reliable than he's ever been before, and he was the guy that definitely still moved the chains for Las Vegas with like 37 catches that got them first downs. And I agree with on offense for the Raiders with Ruggs, Aguilar, Renfro, who never seems to want to leave ever.
Yeah.
That's a decent trio. And as much as I would like Juju in there just to complement them all, they don't need receivers, a pressing need.
No, and if they can bring back Aguilar maybe on a cheap 1-year deal, I mean, why not? If you're a Raiders fan, he's shown that he works over Derek Carr, and if he's got a good connection with your quarterback, why not bring him back? It's only going to help, your quarterback's confidence as well. Another player is Malcolm Butler. He's a 45th ranked free agent. He was actually released, I believe, by the Tennessee Titans. Again, a player that had that phenomenal play in the Super Bowl for the New England Patriots, an experienced player.
Yeah.
Where do you think he could land? Because I think whoever gets Malcolm Butler, they're getting an instant upgrade at cornerback because he can still play inside, outside, and because he was released, if a team signs him, it won't affect the comp pick formula. Still 31, I think he's still got a lot to offer, Malcolm Butler.
Yeah, I do. I wonder if he would get someone to take for example, will someone bank on getting him to a long-term deal? I'm not quite sure. But I think he is an immediate upgrade at corner. And you're about to check what I'm about to check.
Yeah, the Pats again, man. They're going for it this season. And there it is.
It's not confirmed, though, because it's making a major push.
No. The report said that the Patriots may not be done. They're making a major push to sign Ravens pass rusher. So it says big move on D. So maybe it's hinting that something could get done. But as of right now, it looks like Matt Judon could be leaning to be a New England Patriots, getting more depth on that defensive line. Very good for the Ravens the past 2 seasons. Got franchise tag left off season. I mean, at this point, the Patriots are looking like winners in free agency so far.
It's interesting because in terms of the Patriots, I thought their immediate moves would be on offense. To be honest with you, I thought they were going to try and gets, and obviously they did get Johnny Smith, which is very true. But I think in terms of a pass rusher, it's one of the better ones on the market.
Definitely, and I'd like to see the contract because I know he's 29 years old, but again, he's going to bring experience. I think if he fits the scheme really well, he can line up a defensive end outside linebacker. Someone's put a picture of Bill Belichick getting his fresh trim there, looking pretty chuffed with his free agency so far because they've got some good players. And if they can add Matt Jude onto that, then fair play to the New England Patriots.
Yeah, definitely is. Chase Beasley, the greatest, puts in the chat. You'll like this, Will. Cowboys news. Can you look, please? So
well, we mentioned some Cowboys news. I'm just still getting I'm getting notifications on my phone and my computer on Twitter, so I'm just trying to keep up to it all.
Yeah, it's Steelers GM's got a 1-year extension.
Yeah, Kevin Colbert 1-year extension. In terms of Cowboys news, mate, we literally just talked about it. We've had Gerald McCoy was linked as a possible return. The Cowboys released him last offseason when he got that injury, but they've also been linked with Falcon safety Devontae KZ. And it's what I was expecting. Either KZ or Keanu Neal. I thought one of them will be linked to the Cowboys because, as it says here, as Michael Yecklin said here, Cowboys DC Dan Quinn and secondary coach Joe Wick Jr. coached Devontae KZ in Atlanta. Keanu Neal also part of that secondary. So the links are there to the Cowboys with who they've hired as the new staff on the defensive side of the ball. So KZ could be a possible signing at safety. I mean, we need an upgrade at that position. KZ has shown that he can be a playmaker now and again when he's been given the chance. Obviously, tore his Achilles last season, which was a shame. But yeah, those are the links to the Cowboys so far. Nothing major, but again, we all know the Cowboys are not massive players on the first few days of free agency, similar to Kieran's Vikings.
Yeah, hopefully we'll as the day progresses, because we're here till about 7 o'clock covering the first day of kind of teams negotiating with each other. So we're just under an hour left, and I don't know about you because it's not been as entertaining as last year, sadly, because there was no massive trades, but Patriots are the ones making the massive moves, really, in free agency. But I want to talk to you about some of the bigger deals that happened. I think the first one that really caught everyone's eye was J.J. Watt after being cut by the Houston Texans going to Arizona.
You know what? When I first saw the J.J. Watt news to Arizona, I didn't expect it because I know he was linked with a lot of different teams like the Bills and the Packers, and I thought he would sign one of those contending teams. But the fact he went to the Cardinals must have shown he must have been interested in something with Kyler Murray. I think he said Kyler Murray was the reason he went there. But yeah, it's a upgrade on the defense for Arizona. I know they had Chandler Jones who suffered with injuries quite a lot, but yeah, you get J.J. Watt on a 2-year contract. Maybe he can do something for you. Very, very experienced. Yeah, he knows how to get to the passer. At this point, why not? Because I think we can all agree the Cardinals should have made the playoffs last season. They should not have bottled it. And they were 6-3 and they fell apart. But if you have someone like J.J. Watt in your locker room, you probably don't fall apart as much. So I think it's a positive addition to the Cardinals defensive line without a doubt. What do you think of the J.J. Watt? Do you think he'd have gone somewhere else, or do you think the Cardinals?
I think the Cardinals are becoming contenders, and I can see why you would sign for a team that seems to be on the rise. A much better year last year than the year before. Kyler Murray is now on his 3rd year in the NFL, coming into this season. So I think I understand the move, and if they can get Corey Linsley as well, I think they do become some immediate contenders.
No, I completely agree, and there's all the makings there of a good team with the Arizona Cardinals. He's just kind of refining it and just finding a way to win. I know they had the Hail Murray and everything went downhill from there, which was a big shame for him. But the talent is there, and the talent is there for the Cardinals without a doubt, and they've got some very good young pieces. So I think they'll have a good season next year in what is a very, very tough division.
Yeah, we'll quickly move on to the day after, when was Minnesota cut Kyle Rudolph. Maybe I should talk about this one, to be honest with you. I don't mind the deal. What an absolute legend in Minnesota franchise history. But with Irv Smith Jr. and Tyler Conklin, it made cap sense and it made team sense for him to cut. I don't know where he's going to end up, if he'll just retire or he'll sign with somewhere else. But what an absolute legend of Minnesota franchise sport Kyle Rudolph was. But I'm happy about Irv Smith Jr. being the future, because I rate Irv Smith Jr. very much so.
Yeah, I agree. I think it was time. Like we said, he is a legend of the Minnesota Vikings career. He's been there a long time, but there is a time to move on. And I think the time was right. Like you said, you've got Irv Jr., who was mostly back up last season when Rudolph was in the lineup. But now that Rudolph has gone, you've got a clear path for Irv Jr. to be starting tight end for many years to come.
Yeah, I completely agree. I'm just going to check the next person that was the next big kind of deal. I'm going to ignore like some of them, because like Thomas Morstead getting cut, I don't think we really need to comment on.
Yeah.
But I'm going through every day trying to pick out one. It was March the 4th. Golden Tate got cut by the New York Giants. Another one for me that's a steady wide receiver for someone to pick up.
Yeah, one of them. I think the Giants kind of cut him just because he's one of those casualties, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Which was a shame. It was a massive shame. But yeah, I don't know with Golden Tate, because he's kind of bounced around the league a bit. He played for the Lions, was really, really good. He got traded to the Eagles, I believe. Played 1 year there. And then the Giants signed that massive contract. It's not really worked out for him. I know Joe Judge wasn't a massive fan of him, the new head coach of the Giants. And one of them, I think Golden Tate at this point in his career, he's probably number 3 wide receiver for a good team. If you can get him in as number 3 receiver, I still think he can do a bit of work for you in that slot, because he's one of the best run after catch receivers in the league. But I think his days of being a number 1 wide receiver are kind of over, unfortunately.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And then on March 5th, we've got a few deals here, and we'll talk about them. Micah Hyde signing an extension just made sense. That's pretty much.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, no, go on, I'll let you talk for it if you want to talk for it.
No, I think overall I'm just saying that it makes sense. That Buffalo defense last year was, I'd say it was impressive. I think everyone got blown away by their offense, but I think the defense as well definitely did their side of the bargain as well. And I think Micah Hyde is important to that.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think with the players you've got like Micah Hyde, Jordan Poyer, 2 very, very good safeties, arguably the best safety talent in the league. And you want to pay. You want to pay your own players good money, because at the end of the day, they got the Bills to the AFC Championship game. They obviously fell to the Chiefs in the end, but that's nothing to be sad of, because obviously the Chiefs won the Super Bowl.
No, they didn't.
The Chiefs won the Super Bowl in Super Bowl 54. Sorry, my dad walked in and said, "What do you want for tea?" And I was kind of just like a deer in headlights.
It's all right, mate. It's all right. Some other deals that got that day we won't talk about. Jason Kelce, 1 year contract, pillar of the Philadelphia.
It just seems like he gets a 1 year contract every single year. Jason Kelce, he will just give him that 1 year deal every single year.
I mean, the guys never leave in Philadelphia, I don't think. Alex Smith got cut. We knew the reason for that. It was one of them, a cap casualty, but also I think they didn't really what's it called? Need Alex Smith. I don't think they wanted to move forward with him.
Yeah, I don't think it's needed.
As their franchise guy, but a brilliant story nonetheless. And then the day after, we've got Carlos Dunlap that got cut, maybe to re-sign him on a new deal with the Seahawks, which is what we both believe. But also, Stephen Weatherly returned to Minnesota. Go the boy, Stephen Weatherly. He returns as he was still friends with a lot of the player, like Fadi, massive friends with Fadi and players like that. So it's nice to have him back, because he's definitely a rotational edge rusher, but a bit of experience as well, because then the defensive ends last year, Fadi was the kind of the oldest one there, but still he was just more of a rotational guy. Daniil on one side, pick up someone in free agency, Weatherly and Fadi coming in will make that a fearful, quite a decent defensive line, I would say.
Yeah, and I think when you lost it, when he signed for was it the Panthers he signed for last year on a 2 year deal, maybe?
One year deal.
Yeah, it was a bit, like you say, it was more of a rotational defensive end, but I think bringing him back is a good deal, because he knows the scheme and he knows how to play with players like Daniil Hunter. So I think bringing him back, it's kind of like a why not move. It's a low risk move, probably on a short term deal, and it adds depth to defensive line. So I think it's a good pickup by the Minnesota Vikings.
Well, from one football to another, from American football to
time to move forward.
Hello?
They'd have to do.
I should just pause that.
So, to English football. Salah hat-trick tonight, says Nathan, question mark.
Salah hat-trick, yeah. Mohamed Salah is going to bag a hat-trick tonight. I mean, I know I've captained him in me. Oh, it's Nathan Hale, that's why. If you don't know Kieran, this is the man that sits top of our fantasy league, so if there's any questions in fantasy, he's the guy to ask. But yeah, Mo Salah's bagging out without a doubt because I need him.
To be fair, mate, don't ask me. I captained Mason Mount. I thought Leeds v Chelsea might be a high-scoring game, and it
good old 0-0.
Yeah, it was the complete opposite.
I fell asleep mid-game that Chelsea Leeds game. It was that boring, but I had Stuart Dallas on my bench, got me a nice 6 points. But because Gundogan didn't play, I'm going to get Dallas's points. So
I was going to say, I wonder who came in for my Gundogan because Pep always likes to screw with people's fantasy points. And I hope they bring in Che Adams because Che Adams got 8, but I don't know if they will.
I think the way it works is it's your first benchman goes in for your player who didn't play.
Oh, my first player on the bench.
Yeah, so so you'll have your keeper, but then the player next to your keeper is your first benchman, so he'll come in and replace the guy who didn't play.
Are you serious? Because it's Joel Veltman who got 2 points. No way. But
yeah, no, first benchman.
Nathan says, good evening, mate. And not a bad captaincy choice. Most captains have blanked or not even played this week. Yeah, because most people will have captained some City players, or if not, Kane or Son, and they did absolutely nothing.
Well, what about the people that captained De Bruyne and vice captain Son? Very, very unlucky.
Yeah, massively unlucky. And I think Mason Mount at least got me 6 points, but to be honest, I thought he'd do a little bit more, to be honest with you. I trusted him.
Yeah, it's one of them. It's Leeds as well. You know, they're not the best defensive team.
No.
But it would just, I don't know. Tuchel's got them sorted out. They're very, very solid. But I don't know. They don't seem very potent going forward.
No, but there is a deal to talk about as the Houston Texans have agreed terms with wide receiver Andre Roberts on a 2-year deal. It's a smaller deal, this one, isn't it?
Yeah, smaller. It's definitely not going to be DeAndre Hopkins' replacement, Houston Texans fans, unfortunately. But,
no, that was David Johnson last year.
Exactly, yeah. The washed-up running back that they've now released. But yeah, Andre Roberts, from what I know, he's one of those. He's kind of a return specialist. Made the Pro Bowl as a return specialist. Not your best wide receiver, but 2-year deal worth $6 million. It's basically nothing. So if you're the Texans, you need a haul the help you can get. But I don't think Deshaun Watson will be thinking, "Oh yes, to sign Andre Roberts." I don't think he'll be too excited about it.
No, he's a journeyman. Politely, he is a journeyman of the NFL. He's had 6 teams in 11 years. So it's fair to say, now it'll be 7 if you include the Houston Texans. That'll be 7th team in 12 years. But he's got a deal worth a decent amount of money. So fair play to Andre Roberts. He's one of them that it's not going to go in the breaking news section, and I don't think we'll be writing an article about it.
No, unfortunately not for Houston Texans fans anyway. But one of them really, and it's at the end of the day, it's just a cheap free agent signing. He's going to have depth to wide receiver. He's going to be your return man, so it's not a bad deal in the end. But yeah, so far today we've not seen. We saw some major deals earlier on, but since then it's kind of been a bit quiet so far. I think you'll probably see more activity throughout the night and whatnot.
Yeah, is Nathan's put if the Raiders signed anyone decent?
I don't think they've signed anybody yet, have the Raiders?
No, they haven't, and I'm not actually sure if they've had any massive rumours. I'll be honest. Let me just have a look.
I mean, they've released a few players. They got rid of Richie Incognito, the starting guard. They got rid of Trent Brown and traded him away. But Derek Carr's still the QB. They've got some good young weapons. They've got Darren Waller at tight end, who's an absolute beast. They've got Henry Ruggs, good young wide receiver. But we said that defense was their priority. They need some defensive linemen. They need some secondary help. So they probably should be looking to sign some players. But so far, they've not actually signed anybody, I don't believe.
From what I've just seen here, the Raiders. This was from 5 hours ago, according to Vinny Bonsignor. The team views Nelson Aguilar as its free agency priority, bringing him back. But I also did see that they were rumoured to be one of the teams that wanted to trade for Danielle Hunter.
What do you think of Danielle? Would you? Because I know the rumours that they wanted a pay rise and whatnot.
He's got to stay. In my opinion. He can be alongside. Hopefully, we can get someone in free agency. But I've just seen as well by NFL trade rumors, apparently the Chiefs are the primary competition to the 49ers for Trent Williams.
Wow.
Which would explain why they were cutting everybody.
Yeah, why they were getting rid of Eric Fisher and Schwartz. I mean, it'd be a phenomenal pickup, like.
Yeah, it'd be another insane pickup for the Chiefs if they've not had enough already.
I'm going to try and chase that for actually Williams. If there's anything on Twitter about it, I can spell his name. Williams. And there's a lot of 49ers fans. I've literally just logged onto the Twitter and searched up.
Yeah, there you go.
There's a lot of 49ers fans saying it's pay Trent Williams, pay him, re-sign him. Probably is the most in-demand free agent when you look at the rankings. I mean, left tackle's one of the most important positions. He's been phenomenal. I mean, Alex Morgan summed up his thoughts there.
This is the thing. It is behind quarterback, you need someone to protect the quarterback. And Trent Williams has been doing that for many a year. Absolutely.
But yeah, the Chiefs' primary competition, but I also saw that the Colts were interested in him on maybe a 1-year deal because the Colts have got money to throw around this free agency. So maybe they try and bring him in, protect Carson Wentz, their new QB. What did you think of the Wentz deal? Wentz trade to the Colts?
To be honest with you, they needed a quarterback. There was no qualms about it. If they can get the best out of Carson Wentz, because he's the man that got the best out of Carson Wentz originally. So now with a good offensive line, in terms of weapons, there's some weapons there in Indianapolis. Michael Pittman Jr., the rookie, a decent weapon. So he's in a better place than being in Philadelphia. But he's just got to cancel out the turnovers.
Yeah, it's one of them. It's very, very lazy with the football. Last season, Carson Wentz, many turnovers. Just want himself, but like you say, he's gone back to Frank Reich where he had his MVP season. Maybe he can get back to those years, but he's on a massive contract, so he needs to prove it some way or another. But yeah, there's not much going on now. It's kind of quieted down in terms of the free agency news.
It has indeed. We'll stick around just to see if anything
else.
And I'm sorry, I've just seen Adam Kaplan tweet that the Texans have signed the guy on a 2-year deal. Adam Kaplan has put 2 years, $5.75 million, $200,000 in per game RBs bonuses.
So it sounds like it's more of an incentive-based contract then, really.
Yeah. In per, so depending on, I'm presuming it'll be. I'm sure he's going to be the return guy. I can imagine. I can't imagine him lining up along. Well, then again, the Texans did lose Will Fuller, but I don't see this as a replacement.
I think if you're the Texans, you should look to bring back Will Fuller because he's got a very good connection with Deshaun Watson. I remember when Will Fuller was in trade talks. Deshaun Watson was like, he said something like, "If we trade Will Fuller, that's it." Something like he would have gone absolutely crazy.
Yeah.
But does he want to go back to such a toxic team like the Texans? Because if they lose Deshaun Watson, they're probably going to have the first overall pick next season. That's how bad that team is right now.
Yes, and I completely agree because they traded heaven and earth for Laramie Tunsil, which proves how much people desire their tackle of the future. I don't really think he's been worth the amount they shipped away for him, to be honest with you. And then the one good asset they had was DeAndre Hopkins on offense, and besides Deshaun Watson, and they traded him away for peanuts. Yeah. So it was just a horribly run franchise.
Stupidest trade of all time, without a doubt.
Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely stupid. But we'll pivot back to the some of the free agents that are on his list here. The first one being Sammy Watkins. Again, a player that the Chiefs paid big bucks for, and he was all right. He wasn't too bad, but again, the Chiefs have had him on big bucks for the past few seasons. I think he's going to find a new team this offseason. Where do you think is the best fit for Sammy Watkins at this point in his career? 28 years of age. Do you think he can still contribute to a championship team?
Yes, but again, he's another one that probably you don't want him playing every single snap purely because he can't do it. So he's one of them where you might have to bring him in a decent packed wide receiver room already for him to add some value, because I just don't see him as a full-time kind of starter for your team just because he can't stay healthy.
No, I agree. I think his ceiling's probably like your wide receiver 3. I think if you're looking to get someone like Sammy Watkins in, I think you're bringing him in as more of that depth receiver, because you don't want him starting as number 1 receiver, because at the end of the day, he's just not that good enough anymore. But the next player is Xavier Rhodes, former Viking, fell off a cliff 2 seasons ago. I mean, for many years, the roads were closed in Minneapolis when he got all those All-Pro selections, but the roads were officially open in his final year with Minnesota. Had a bounce back year with the Colts on a 1-year deal. To be honest, I think if you're the Colts, you just bring him back because he absolutely flourished in that system.
Well, I don't know what you're talking about, because he actually made the Pro Bowl in his final year. So
I mean, ranked 109 corners.
Exactly. He ranked the second worst and somehow made the Pro Bowl. No idea how. But to be honest, I actually want him to go back to Indianapolis because it was a good fit for Xavier Rhodes. And I don't know if he's in line for a massive payday. I don't think so. I don't think it was that good of a year to suddenly boost his stock massively. But I just like the matchup in Indianapolis.
No, I agree. I think, like you say, he'd struggled with that last season with the Vikings, despite shithouse in a Pro Bowl, which he shouldn't have been to. But the fact that he went to the Colts on a 1-year deal and had such a good season, I think the Colts will bring him back on a 1-year deal. It won't hurt them at all. And it's veteran leadership in that secondary, which is always needed.
Yeah, exactly. He's a good player.
I'll try and get a few of these quicker now. More noteworthy players. We'll loll look at Antonio Brown. We'll go past Jacoby Brissett. Might come back to him, but there's rumours that he could sign with the Eagles. But again, he's probably a backup at best right now. But Antonio Brown, this is a very intriguing one because it looked like he was going to be out the NFL. Every team he'd been on, he tried to implode. Went to the Bucs, got a catch in the Super Bowl, touchdown catch in the Super Bowl, played really well with Tom Brady and Mike Evans and Chris Godwin and whatnot. Do you think he returns to the Bucs? Because I think there's nowhere else for him to go, really.
Exactly. That was exactly what I was going to say. I don't think there's any value in Antonio. Well, there is. There's some value in Antonio Brown, but I feel like the real value is in Tampa Bay. But that team's got so many offensive weapons. Do they really need to bring Antonio Brown back again?
That's the thing. I mean, you've also got young players like Tyler Johnson. You probably want to get him overrunning. You've still got Scotty Miller there, along with Evans and Godwin, and maybe even Gronk if they bring him back. Cameron Brate's still there. I mean, the offense is absolutely stacked, but I think it's either Bucs or retirement for Antonio Brown at this point for him. Janoris Jenkins, released by the Saints. I mean, he was very good back in his day when he played for the Giants a few years ago. Went and played for the Saints on a short-term deal, was all right. He's now a free agent again, 32 years of age. Again, potential 1-year contract possibly. Yeah,
I think so. He's one of them players that, as there's some noise coming from my computer as well. I just don't think that that he's going to be the first the first corner on people's radars this year. To be honest with you.
Yeah, I agree. I think he's one of the people that kind of hangs around for a bit as a free agent, maybe close to the season starting, and he's picked up as maybe a depth player. Because as of right now, I think if you wanted to get a starting corner in free agency, then you probably need to look at the higher end people. I've just seen Tom Downey Cowboys fans, but Deshaun is now officially staying after this. Yeah. But the next player we'll go to. You know what? Let's have a look at this. Is a really interesting one as well. Kenyon Drake, franchise tag last year by the Cardinals.
Yeah,
he was a really good fit with them. But again, you just don't pay running backs in today's market unless they're a superstar running back.
And to be honest, he wasn't really great this year for Arizona. And I think the problem is when you've got a running back, a quarterback who can run the ball as well as Kyler Murray can, it doesn't limit the need for a running back because you still need to kind of, fake the handoff and people actually be fearful. But when you've got Kenyon Drake, I think people kind of would ignore. He wasn't causing defenses to think about him at all. Yeah.
And it was one of them, it's like when he got traded from the Dolphins, it was pretty much like a 5th round pick. He did all right when he came in, got that tag. But if the Cardinals really want a running back, they can just probably draft somebody better.
Yeah.
There's people in the draft that you can pick up and do a serviceable job. And the Cardinals, like we saw them last year, they're more of a passing offense anyway. They like to throw the ball downfield a lot with Murray, so it's one of them.
Yeah. Look at James Robinson, undrafted, does an absolute brilliant job. It's one of them where he's putting up numbers that for the same people that paid that. Well, I say that he didn't put near the same numbers as Dalvin Cook and Derrick Henry, but them two were on a different level last year. But Alvin Kamara earned a big payday on the same money as thingy. So I will just say something I've just seen, but nothing close yet on an extension for Harrison Smith. But talks are taking place between the Vikings and Harrison Smith, and they want to, nice to wrap him up, save some 2021 money and have him retire as a Viking, which would be nice actually because he's another Vikings legend.
And I think he's still one of the top tier safeties in the league without a doubt. So I think, like you say, it's one of them that you expect to happen. It's just a matter of time, I think. We've had a signing though. Linebacker Camu Grugier-Hill has joined the Texans. So another signing for the Houston Texans. I believe he played for the Eagles. Camu Grugier-Hill, he played for the Dolphins last year. He's one of those players that he's a good rotational linebacker when he's needed. Again, it's just more depth for the Texans, but there's bigger problems for the Texans right now than signing players. It says here, Tom Pelissero, it's a 1-year deal worth $3.25 million. So a cheap 1-year deal again for Grugier-Hill. Not a bad signing, I guess, for the depth.
Yeah, and I've just seen even worse news. I don't know if you've got Chad Graff on there. Apparently, Daniil Hunter is unhappy and is exploring all options, including a trade request. So,
not great news there for the Vikings. I mean, I know it's unlikely, but if you did end up trading Daniil Hunter, what do you think? What compensation do you think you could get for him? Do you think you could probably get a first-round pick for him?
Yeah, definitely. The guy is only 25, 26, I think. But I'll be honest, I just want to pay them up. To be honest with you, for $14 million a year or $14 million for a premier pass rusher. Yeah, he's coming off a neck injury, but
it's a bargain, isn't it, at the end of the day?
Yeah, exactly.
The next player, Patrick Peterson, another interesting free agent who, a few years ago, best cornerback in the NFL, still is one of the top cornerbacks. Even though he's 31, he's still proven that he's a playmaker, and he could definitely be a good addition to any team. If I'm being honest with you, I really would like him on the Cowboys. I just don't know if they'll bring him in. I still think he can demand quite a big price, but I can't see him return to the Cardinals. I think he wants a new challenge. I want him on the Cowboys. I think anywhere else could be a good fit for him.
Yeah, to be honest, he's another player that, unfortunately, I think his days of being like a really elite cornerback are behind him. He's a very good cornerback still in the NFL, and any team that's looking for a bit of veteran leadership in the cornerback room, I think you bring in Patrick Peterson for a couple of years.
I completely agree with you there. These next three players, very, very all interesting because we mentioned Larry Ogunjobi could be a target for the Vikings. And he's still only 27, so he's one of those players that you could bring in on maybe a longer-term deal if he's any good for you, and just add more depth to the defensive line. And Ndamukong Suh again, he had that phenomenal season once. Ndamukong Suh, right? He just doesn't seem to age because no matter how old he is, he always seems to have an impact on the defensive line. He's 34, but he still plays like he's in his prime now and again. Just creates so much pressure. And Cal Van Noy was cut by the Dolphins. He signed a 4-year deal last off season. It was cut after his first year. It was mostly cap savings. But where do you think, out of those three players, let's say the Vikings are going to target one of those players. If you could choose out one of those three players, who would you pick?
I think I'd pick Larry Ogunjobi. I think linebacker, sorted, to be honest, if you talk about the three on the screen. I think we've got fine with Eric Wilson, even though he's not quite with us at the moment. But you've got Anthony Barr and Eric Kendricks, perfect. I think if you're looking at Larry Ogunjobi, and Ndamukong Suh is one of them. It's, as you said, signing him 1 year's deals, expecting him to maybe retire after a poor year. He's just not had a poor year yet.
No, he's done.
So you just got to wait. But I think Ogunjobi has a prolonged, he can be part of your defensive line for a little bit longer.
Yeah, I agree. I think if I was going to pick one of those players, I'd probably go with Suh, just because he's one of those exciting names, and he instantly had a bit of leadership. And obviously, DeMarcus Lawrence is still a good defensive end, but he's had a down year last season. It's fair to say he was good towards the back end, but he started pretty slow. If you had someone like Suh on that defensive line, where teams have to account for him, I think he could raise the level of other players. Xavier Woods, Cowboy safety, I've mentioned him before, how his tackling is absolutely woeful. if he's interested on re-signing, 1 year, $900K, bring him in. Other than that, I don't think his future lies with the Cowboys.
Yeah.
One of
I
them.
think that's fair.
He's just an average player at the end of the day, and he really Xavier Woods.
Yep. As the Rams are extending a first-round restricted free agents tender on Darius Williams.
And it makes sense, to be fair, because I know he was one of, the Rams have a pretty young secondary. They drafted someone last year, late in, I think it was the 5th round, and he got Jordan Fuller. That's it, Jordan Fuller. He was very good for them. And another player there, in Darius Williams, who's more of a slot corner, but that's what I was expecting to get done, really. Good player, Darius Williams.
Yeah, I think that's fair enough. And apart from that, news is very, very slow as we tick down to our last half an hour.
It is. There's not much going on, is there?
No, not really. I mean, Gruger Hill is about as exciting as it's got so far. But we thank you all for joining us. We have still got about half an hour left. So if you are new, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. We've got so much stuff on here.
Another deal, by the way.
Oh, yeah, I'll finish my promo. For football to wrestling to some NFL content when we can get it on it as well. We also have the Twitter, which actually, before you do Jason Brett, if you could get the Twitter up, Will.
Absolutely.
If you want to follow the channel and learn more about when we go live and when we promote stories, that is the Twitter right there. Give it a follow if you want to know about. Oh, I thought you was unfollowing then, but
no. I will just point. If someone doesn't know where the follow button is, just guide them.
Yeah. There you go. That big blue button there, and also if you want to check out the website is just there. If you can see it, it's thesports-corner.com. If you go to the website and you click on the link, it will take you to all the stuff we've had today, covering the free agency, and also you'll have new articles every single day. But there was a deal while I was doing my promo.
There was indeed a deal. I'm sorry for interrupting, but got there in the end, and it is one that we predicted, Kieran. Jason Verrett is returning to San Francisco once again on another 1-year deal. He was good for them as a veteran cornerback, and he returns now. It looks like they're going to lose Richard Sherman, and they need bodies there at cornerback. Jason Verrett, I think it's a good deal for both sides. Yeah,
it's exactly what we said earlier, wasn't it? We had one kind of Richard Sherman leave was their big kind of cornerback, and you don't want to lose too many experienced good players in the secondary at one time. Trust me, from experience, it doesn't work out well.
No, I'm the same with the Cowboys. Like, you can't just play a bunch of rookies at cornerback. It just doesn't work. You need some veteran leadership on the back end. And Verrett, like I said, he had those years in for the Chargers when he's really good. He got a bad injury. I think he missed 2 seasons nearly of action just because of how bad his injury was. Went to San Francisco on a prove-it deal, and he's proved that he's still one of the, still a very, very serviceable slot corner. So that was the 49ers. It was kind of, we thought it was going to happen. There was nowhere else we thought Verrett would go, but he now officially returns to San Francisco on a 1-year deal. That's according to Justine Anderson, who's a pretty reliable source, it's fair to say. Yeah,
and there's I think more people have been reporting it for, I think Pelissero were retweeting it and stuff like that now.
Yeah, we've got some more news backing up the Matt Judon move to the Pats. Justine Anderson has been very, very, we've been very good today. She's been getting a lot of news out. She said that Matthew Judon sent this text, "I'm on the phone, apparently still working through things, whatever his final decision. Keep an eye on his IG, heads up." So he's not giving anything away, it seems, but there are those strong rumours that we saw earlier from Rappaport saying they could go to the Patriots, but we'll have to see what he does. Who he does sign for. It's looking like it's going to be the Pats, but anything can happen in free agency, as we know that.
Yeah, that makes sense. I'm just looking on Twitter to see if there's any more any more deals. It has. But look, it'll be the moment where we finish. About 1,000 deals will get done. And
I remember that was the case. That was the case last year when we finished, and about 20 minutes later, it was like that massive trade for DeForest Buckner to the Colts.
Yes.
Just after it ended, the DeForest Buckner got traded to the Colts, which was absolutely typical. But this is going to go on, through the night. I think you'll see a lot more big signings.
Yeah, I'm just seeing from Rappaport that apparently Jason Verrett had multi-year offers on the table.
Wow.
But he's opted to bet on himself, which is a fair enough.
And to be honest, that just kind of shows he probably thought San Francisco gave him that chance on that 1 year deal. He's probably repaid him by saying, "Look, I'll give you another chance on a 1 year deal." So, it's a win-win for both sides, really. It really is.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that.
We'll go back to the rankings again. Sheldon going back to the rankings. Let's talk about Sheldon. Again,
stuff.
An underrated defensive lineman, I think it's fair to say, for the Saints. Since he was drafted, he's had a big impact. But as you can see there, he did suffer that Achilles injury, and he's come off surgery. We don't know whether he'll be the same player or not, but if someone can get him on a cheap deal, maybe a 1 year contract, maybe a 2 year deal, I think he could be very, very good in the interior of the defensive line.
I think that's a lot of cases with the players that we've mentioned so far. Is a lot of cheap deals for people either coming off injuries, veteran players, and just with the lower cap number in general, it might be some shorter deals for these players. And as you'll see with the next player, Keanu Neal, another injured player.
Another player that unfortunately, I think he also tore his Achilles, but a player that's been linked with the Cowboys behind Dan Quinn as defensive coach. To be honest, I won't mind Keanu Neal in as a player because still 26 years old. I still think he's got a lot to offer. And you pair him next to Donovan Wilson, it's an instant upgrade at safety over the likes of Reggie Robinson, who the rookie didn't. I don't think he got much game time at all. But we were playing people like Darian Thompson at safety. Darian Thompson, in my opinion, he's just not good enough to play for a team who wants to compete for a playoff spot. I think Keanu Neal will be a pretty good sign on a 1 year deal. But we'll see where he ends up. I think we've said it many times. There's a lot of veterans available in this year's market. A lot of very good players. Like Desmond King, for example, he's a very good slot cornerback.
He is, yeah, he is. And another offensive lineman there was Villanueva, who alongside the likes of Marquise Pouncey, that offensive line of the Steelers will look very different next year. Oh,
absolutely, yes. He's going to see a massive change. I mean, there's still like the David DeCastro will still be there, but I agree they're going to see a lot of new faces on that Steelers O-line to look to rebuild the offense, really.
Yeah.
But, I mean, another free agent, another interesting one, another running back, Marlon Mack. Now, he was pretty good for the Colts, but the emergence of Jonathan Taylor and Marlon Mack doing his Achilles.
Yeah.
Where do you think he ends up? 25 years old, still pretty young, but he's not too young for a running back, obviously, with the amount of hits that he's taken.
Yeah, wherever he goes, it'll be a nice 1-2 punch for that team. Especially, he's not like some of the other players on this list, with wide receivers where we said, we don't want to be in a full-time starter. I think Marlon Mack could be a full-time starter for anybody in the NFL for a year or two. He's proven he can do it. But I think as a nice little 1-2 punch with a team that already has a decent running back will be probably best suited for Marlon Mack.
Yeah, I agree. I think if someone wants to pay him as a start, I mean, it's probably not the best option. But if you can use him alongside another running back, without a doubt, Marlon Mack can still make an impact on any team he goes to. Definitely. We'll talk for two more corners here. Quinton Dunbar, Case Hayward. Quinton Dunbar had that issue early in the offseason where apparently it could have, with who was it? The DeAndre Baker. Him and DeAndre Baker reportedly.
Yeah.
It turns out Dunbar was actually innocent, and he didn't have a bad year with the Seahawks, but again, he was pretty average. 29 years of age, another 1 year deal. I know we've said that nearly every single player, but another 1 year deal maybe for Dunbar. Do you think?
Yeah, definitely not the most consistent of playmakers at cornerback, but still only 29. To be fair, he's not by any means done, but again, he's one of them. You bring all the possible personal issues and the inconsistent play with you.
Yeah, one of them is you kind of know what you're getting, don't you? You kind of, if you're going to give him a 1 year deal, it's mostly because you want him as a backup or a bit of a rotational piece. So
yeah,
it kind of makes sense if anybody wants more depth there. Case Hayward, I think maybe could be a start. I mean, I know he's 32, but a few years ago was one of the better lockdown corners in the league. He was released by the Chargers yesterday, so if anyone signs it, it won't affect the comp pick formula. I think he could be a good signing for anybody because he can play inside, outside. Yeah, Case Hayward, I think, could be a very good addition.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. It's another one of them veteran players that there seems to be so many of them. In this kind of free agency. It'll be interesting to see. I'm not sure when we'll see him get picked up, but a good player nonetheless.
Yeah, and like you said, there's just look at all these corners. Troy Hill, 30-year-old cornerback, he's still available. We've talked through Woozier's on there as well from the Cowboys.
Everson Griffin, my boy.
Malik Hooker, another safety who was, when he got drafted, people were saying he could be the next Earl Thomas. He suffered really bad injuries, did his Achilles. He's only 25 years old again, probably another 1-year deal safety. Which Dan Arnold, he was very good last season for the Cardinals late in the season. He was a very good tight end. James Conner. There's a lot of players on the market that there could be some absolute steals there. Mike Davis, fantasy legend he was, Mike Davis, but running backs are just kind of you can find him anywhere really, can't you?
Yeah, exactly. As you get towards the bottom, these are the players that you kind of just waiting to see where they'll end up eventually. And we've seen some players that weren't even on that list signed before the 101.
Exactly. There's always players out there that are available on a cheap. Players that have signed. Players that have been restricted for agents, and the tenders have been declined, and they can be picked up on cheap deals. But this is one that I didn't see. PFF reported it says that Brandon Graham and the Eagles have agreed to a 1-year extension that will pay close to $20 million over the next 2 years. So I think he was already under contract, and they've just kind of extended him. Again, another player he's been at the Eagles for a long time. Obviously, helped them win that Super Bowl championship against the Pats. Good deal for the Eagles, you think?
Yeah, I think it's one of them because they're a team that has to. They're in a little bit of a cap kind of crunch, and they've also got, I think, Fletcher Cox as well. That they need to make some decisions on the players like that. So it'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, I completely agree. And as you can see, Johnny Smith signed that big contract earlier on. He's now in the top 3 highest-paid tight ends in the league. I mean, George Kittle and Travis Kelce probably untouchable as the top 2 corners. Darren Waller's probably up there as well. But yeah, Johnny Smith, fair play to him, man. He got that massive contract.
Yeah, and to be honest with you, it had to be the New England Patriots, didn't it?
It had to be, because they do love a cornerback. Tom Pelissero's updated some more details on the Romeo Okwara deal because he signed it quite a while back now. It was maybe 2 or 3 hours ago. He signed a 3-year deal, or a 3-year re-sign with the Lions because he's already there. And he said he gets $14 million signing at bonus, and over the first 2 years, $26 million, $20 million guaranteed. I mean, it shows you that there were probably some teams hunting around for Romeo Okwara because he came off that 10-sack season, showing that he can be a consistent pass rusher. The Lions, it probably makes sense now why they had to pay so much money to bring him back.
Yeah. Especially if there was some markets for that guy. For Okwara, sorry.
Exactly. But again, it's just gone pretty quiet on the news section. Not much more news coming in now in terms of players signing.
No, to be fair, we're entering the last real 15 minutes, and in terms of deals that have happened today, most of them you can see along the bottom of the screen. Defensive end Shaq Barrett re-signed with the Buccaneers. That was the first real big deal of the day, and then probably arguably one of the most expensive deals of the day. The Patriots signing tight end Jonnu Smith, and under the radar deal that got done was Carolina. They didn't just stop at Pat Elflein. They did get Pat Elflein, the former Minnesota guard. They also got somebody else, but I can't remember the name.
Yeah, they signed former Giants and Cowboys offensive lineman Cam Irvin. I think it was a 2-year deal worth about $10 million. So, Panthers trying to strengthen that offensive line, but I believe that will give the Cowboys a comp pick, Cameron Irvin. So I'll take it. The Cowboys have gained a pick from someone else signing a former Cowboy,
which is a massive deal. But that's pretty much it in terms of deals, isn't it?
That's it. Yeah, we predicted it's going to be one of those years, but with the COVID situation, teams tight on salary. The only team that's really going to splash the cash so far is the Patriots. I know that the Bucs have spent a lot of money on Shaquille Barrett re-signing him, but probably thought it was going to happen anyway. They brought back the tagged Godwin, brought back Levante David, but other than that, there's still. Look at all these free agents that are still available. Trent Williams still out there. Bud Dupree, God knows what's going to happen with him. Trey Hendrickson, Kyle Lawson, 2 good defensive ends. Kenny Golladay, a top-tier wide receiver. Clowney, who knows what's going to happen with him. Joe Tooney, very good offensive lineman. Same with Corey Linsley. There's a lot of players left from the market. I think you'll see more movement over the coming days when we get to the start of the league year that these players will start signing contracts. But I just feel like a lot of players are going to sign 1-year deals and try and get back to the market, next off season and try and get that big bucks.
Yeah, I definitely think so. And of course, after we have finished the league, the negotiation period still does continue. So do keep up to date with it on Twitter if you want to look at some of the thingy. And also, we will probably have articles on the Sports Corner for some of the big major deals, as we're just going to ignore the fact Daniil Hunter wants a new contract.
Yeah, potentially hold out or demand a trade if he's getting a new contract.
You've got
your stance is clear, isn't it? Your stance is clear.
Yeah, you've got to pay him because you don't have anybody, I believe, on this market that matches Daniil Hunter for talent, in my opinion.
I agree, and it's very hard. Pass rushers probably like the second, third important position behind QBs. It's very hard to find a legit pass rusher. I know Hunter had the injury issues, but when we saw a few years ago in the playoffs against the Saints, he got that massive forced fumble, and he's still very, very young. I think he's a player, like I say, you pay him his money, and you keep him around without a doubt. But I think with the lack of news we're getting in now, it probably starts coming a bit later on. Probably a good time to end the stream, Kieran.
It is, mate. We have been the Sports Corner, and we've been taking you through all the free agency deals. Make sure to keep an eye on the website for any deals that might go through when we're both away, because we are from the UK, which means any deals that happen at like 4 a.m, we're probably not going to be able to report them, unfortunately. But do keep an eye on the website for any articles on some free agent deals. But we are the Sports Corner, and here you can watch your football, you can watch some wrestling. We've got pretty much everything, all sports covered here, and that is on the Sports Corner YouTube channel. The other social links are on the Twitter page. It's the Sports-Corner for the website. The Twitter itself, if I'm not mistaken, is at the _top corner.
Do you want me to get them up on the Twitter?
Yeah, if you just get the old socials up. And this is, there you go. We are the Sports Corner YouTube channel, at the _top corner for the Twitter, the sports-corner.com for the website, and Instagram is the _sports corner_. If you need to keep up to date with that. And of course, we also have darts. I forgot to mention the darts, but coming up in the coming days, we have the Champions League on Tuesday and Wednesday, and then we'll confirm some other. So keep on time with the on the Twitter and the YouTube content for anything else. But aside from that, please make sure to like and subscribe and share the channel. Thank you, Will, for joining me for this. A little bit slower than last year's free agency.
Yeah, it wasn't quite the free agency. Well, so far, I think it'll pick up, but it wasn't the start that we had last season with the Hopkins trade and whatnot. But I'm sure it'll pick up, and keep up to date on the Twitter and whatnot. We'll have news going out if anything else has happened. But thanks for having us again. It's been fun.
It's been fun as always, and hopefully we'll see some crazy deals over the next coming days. But thank you very much, Will, for joining me, and thank you everybody in the chat that's put in some comments. And we'll see you next time.